1.
There you go.
You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Perfect. Thank you very much, TCTV. Good evening. The time is now 6:30 p.m. I'm Chairman Mike Curry, and I'd like to call the Select Board Organizational and Business Meeting to order on this 25th day of May 2022. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We possibly have a moment of silence for Texas.
Yep, both you and Mr. Toth also had that idea. So would you like to lead us in that, or Mr. Toth, would you like to lead us in that? Tim, can you hear me all right?
Certainly. Thank you. Sorry I'm not with you folks tonight. Some surgery prep meds and a kidney stone have me intimately involved with the bathroom this afternoon. So if I pop off screen, I will be back. Yes, in light of the recent disaster and the current stats that are being released out of Uvalde, Texas, 19 youth and 2 adults have succumbed. And it's conflicting whether the perpetrator was in captivity or was eliminated in the process as well. But I would invite everyone for a brief moment of silence for everyone fallen and all who are involved. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Tim.
If I may, I have one other thing I would like to share.
Go ahead.
Having sat in a dispatcher's chair and worn the headset and dealing with the crews on the other ends of the radio, I know what the frustrations are, especially in tense situations. This was posted today by one of the dispatchers out of that small community. Uvalde is about 16,200 for a population. And these are his words, not mine. I wanted to reach out because I'm not going to post to our dispatch group, but I'm one of the dispatchers that worked the shooting. We dispatched 17 agencies. There were only ever 2 of us on the desk at a time. We're responsible for all EMS, police, fire for the county of Uvalde. This includes the cities of Concan, Nepa, and Sabinal. And I apologize if I said those written correctly. I'm completely overwhelmed. Dispatching for over 10 years, we've never dealt with anything in this sort of a situation. The agency is entirely overwhelmed. If anybody wishes to send cards, they can send them to the Uvalde Police Department, 964 West Main Street, Uvalde, Texas, 78801. We only have 9 dispatchers. Our supervisor rounds us out to a total of 10. I don't know what else to say, but I just wanted to let you know that we're here struggling, but still pushing through. We have no GoFundMe pages, nor do we intend to create any. One of the 2 funeral homes in the area is offering free services to the families affected. We don't want to see anybody get scammed out of any money. Thank you for your time. So my deepest sympathies to all involved, the public safety teams, the families, everybody else. It's just unfathomable.
Agreed, Tim. Thank you very much. A little bit later, I'd like to share our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Casvant, had sent a message to the public. He uses his school channel, so a lot of people probably didn't get to see it. Because this is school and children based, I wanted to share a couple of his words a little bit later in citizen input. But first, I mentioned this is an organizational and business meeting, so we've got a little bit of organization to take care of first. I haven't even read the rules of meeting yet. But I'd like to address that as well. But thanks both of you for allowing us to address that first. Okay, good. Let's see. Before we begin, I'd like to state for the record that not only are we being streamed live on TCTV Cable Station 8 and our YouTube web platform, but this evening's recording will be available for later viewing on our YouTube channel. I can see by roll call and online, we've got our full quorum of all 5 select board members. As always, our agenda for this evening has been set no later than 48 hours out by law, and it is publicly available at the official source for town information, templetonma.gov. Although I have the discretion as chairperson to add and remove from the agenda, it has been set to allow for time, personnel resources, and public awareness. I reserve the right to move agenda items around to best fit our business and our guests. Thank you. If this is your first time attending a select board meeting or any public meeting in this community, welcome. We are glad that you joined us here this evening. Please be aware that we do our best to address all agenda items adequately, all public concerns with due concern, and all comments with dignity and patience. Please do your best to show the same respect. And a couple extra words for our Zoom participants. Because we have a few that are joining us remotely this evening, couple Zoom rules of the road. Please use, if you are presenting, please use video when possible. Although if you're waiting for your agenda item, it's best to have your video off. That way we don't see you letting the dog out the back door or something like that. Please use the mute feature when not speaking. Although TCTV can jump in and place you on mute, it is easier if you control your own mute button. If you wish to speak, you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Terry knows that one really well. Or you can politely break in. If you like to, also, if you would like to see material shared on the big screen behind me, in front of me, and in Zoom, just please request that of me. I have the ability to share items from the agenda packet, a map, or otherwise, if we need that to better clarify something. All right, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Now let's go to the agenda. Okay, like I said, the first part is organizational actions. First, we have our ceremonial swearing in of our newly elected board members. We have our town clerk with us, Carol Harris. Hello, Carol.
Hello.
We're ready when you are.
Okay, I'd just like to state for the record that this is just ceremonial purposes, that you both had been sworn in my office prior to this. If you could both raise your right hand.
Yeah.
And Teresa Griffiths and Michael Curry, do you both swear to solemnly and faithfully, according to your best skill and judgment, perform the duties of select board member for the town of Templeton?
I do.
Okay, you're all set. Congratulations, and thank you both very much.
Thank you very much, Carol. Appreciate it. Okay, we've got a couple organizational actions first. So we have action related to selecting a chair, a vice chair, a clerk, and our liaisons to the committees, and also approving our FY23 meeting schedule, which is in the agenda packet. If you're following along on your phone or otherwise, just go to our MyTownGov and you can find the 188 page packet, and that all those items are referenced in there. So chair, vice chair, clerk, and liaisons.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Julie.
I move to appoint Tim Toth as chair of the select board to a term ending at the organization meeting usually held in May of 2023.
I would second that motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yeah, any discussion? Okay, hearing none. On the motion to appoint Tim Toth as chair of the select board to a term ending at the organization meeting usually held in May of 2023. How would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
I will abstain.
I vote yes. And the yeses have it. Congratulations, Tim.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I
Ms. Joy.
move,
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, hey, how you doing?
Well, as the vice chair,
Um,
I'm getting ahead of myself. Go ahead.
You are okay. I move to appoint Mike Curry, vice chair of the select board, to a term ending at the organization meeting usually held in May of 2023.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'm sorry to get right out of Tim. Tim, this is all you.
He's not-
Only for this one, and I can take over.
And then you can.
Completely understood. A motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Any further discussions? Hearing none, I will call for the roll call vote. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes,
Mr. Curry.
Sure. Yes,
I vote yes as well.
fantastic. All right, as your vice chair and your remote, I can take the reins from here. Tim, you good with that?
Yes, if you would, please. I'm going to stay on as long as I can, but if I pop off and you see my little emblem come up, you'll know I stepped away, but I will be rejoining the meeting.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Okay, I would move to appoint Terry Griffith, or reappoint Terry Griffith as clerk of the select board to our term ending at the organization meeting usually held in May of 2023.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none on the motion to appoint, reappoint Terry Griffiths as clerk of the select board to a term ending at the organization meeting usually held in May of 2023. How would you vote? Jeff,
Yes.
Terry,
Sure.
Julie,
Sure.
Tim?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. Excellent. All right, that is all of our organization for the select board. We just have a couple of liaisons and committees. We have Capital Improvements Committee, the educational liaison to both school districts or the school district in Montauk. We have Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, Montechusett Metropolitan Planning Organization, Templeton Developmental Center Reuse Committee, and finally the regional, do we need the regional agreement?
We don't need the last two, Mr. Chair.
The last two, okay.
Oh, nice.
Tim was capital improvements before, right?
Yes.
I
was.
don't want to nominate myself. I'll swap with him. Well, I just nominate him. I have experience on that.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Mike Curry as the board's representative on the Capital Improvements Committee to a term ending at the organizational meeting usually held in May 2023.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. Any further discussion? Basically taking Tim's spot.
Did he want?
As chair, I just, in terms of just the amount of, spreading
Okay.
the wealth.
Mhm.
I certainly don't. I mean, if someone else wanted to be on it, I don't mind that as well.
That's good.
Like I said, I've sat on it
How many?
both as a select board and advisory, so pretty familiar with the process.
I like your spread the wealth.
Any other discussion? Okay, on the motion to appoint Mike Curry as the board's representative on the Capital Improvements Committee to a term ending at the org meeting usually held in May of 2023. How would you vote? Jeff,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes,
Tim,
yes,
and I vote yes as well. I'll move to appoint Terry Griffiths to continue as the board's education liaison to NRSD and Monty for a term ending at the org meeting usually held in May of 2023.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? You good?
Sure. I hope to do a bit better job.
You give us a lot of information.
I held off tonight, though, next meeting. I had something I wanted to share.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. On the motion to reappoint Terry as the board's educational liaison to NRSD and Monty for a term ending at the org meeting usually held in May of 2023. How would you vote? Jeff,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes,
Tim,
yes,
and I vote yes as well. I would move to appoint Jeff Bennett to the, reappoint Jeff Bennett to the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission to a term ending at the org meeting usually held in May of 2023.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I wouldn't want to take you off that when some of the best stuff is coming
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 right
up
down.
pretty darn soon.
Coming down the pike.
Any further discussion? Okay, on the motion to appoint Jeff to the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, the term ending at the org meeting usually held in May of 2023. How do you vote, Jeff?
Sure.
Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Absolutely.
Tim,
Yes,
and I vote yes as well. So this was your first year.
Yes.
Okay. I would move to appoint Terry as the liaison to the Montechusett Metropolitan
Oh, no,
Planning.
that's Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Those two go
You
together.
know, I was thinking of the other one. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You were
Okay.
thinking of Monty Tech because it
I-
goes with NRSD. I understand.
I was actually thinking of the business,
Oh,
the one that we put you on this last year. I'm sorry. I would move to, I strike that. I move to appoint Jeff Bennett as the liaison to the Montechusett Metropolitan Planning Organization to a term ending at the organizational meeting usually held in May of 2023.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Sorry for that.
Chamber of Commerce.
That's the one. I just thought it had a fancier name. I know. Okay, hearing nothing further, on the motion to appoint Jeff, reappoint Jeff Bennett as the liaison to Montechusett Metropolitan Planning Organization to a term ending at the org meeting usually held in the May of 2023. How would you vote? Jeff,
Sure.
Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Tim,
yes.
and I vote yes as well. Okay, that wraps up for the select board. I'm gonna turn it over. I think you've got,
Thanks,
Your
Mr.
form.
Vice Chair. I appreciate that.
you can call your committee and perform your organization.
Excellent, great. I'm going to call the advisory committee to order. 6:50.
Mhm.
About 6:50, Roger.
7.
So we also have to do a reorganization for a chair, vice chair, and a clerk. And we actually have just one member that we need to appoint to the Capital Improvements Committee as a member.
Okay.
So at this time, I would take any type of motions at this point.
I nominate John Caplis as chair.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Do I have any other discussion? I see none. Cam?
Yes. Yes.
Good. Yes. Paul? And I vote yes as well. Vice Chair. I nominate Noel Francis for Vice Chair.
Second.
I have motion second. Do I have any discussion? Paul?
Yes.
No. Cam?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Clerk? Tough position. I nominate Paul. Temporary to be clerk till you have to leave.
Sure.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? I see none. Cam?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. We just appoint one member to the Capital Improvements Committee.
What's that on that?
Excellent. So you'd like to take it again?
Yes.
Excellent. I second that. Any other discussion with that? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Back to you, but Mr. Vice Chair.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And you're
Don't have to do it.
you're not, I know you probably, I don't know if you're sticking with this whole meeting, but we'll remain in joint session until we're finished with the transfers.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. Fantastic. I think we are done with organizational actions. Let me, just a meeting schedule. Just a meeting schedule. Okay. All right. Let's see. In your packet, you're going to find your meeting schedule, proposed meeting schedule. Holly or Adam, is there anything of note in there? Anything to call attention to?
Just the Tuesday meeting
Okay.
for Thanksgiving. highlighted.
About the same schedule as last year, just, the day updated, the day before.
Can we
I-
have discussion?
Say again.
Can we have discussion with this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm just waiting until you're ready.
Did I? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the FY 23 meeting schedule as presented.
A motion? Motion, do I have a second for the meeting schedule?
Second,
All right, thanks, Tim. All right, any discussion?
Mr. Vice Chair, actually, I do have one question, which I also had last year, so I'll bring it up once again. I'm wondering how important it is to have the business meetings, 2 of them in the month of July and 1 in the month of August. There have been years on this board that we've taken a little bit of a breath after a town meeting, and I don't know, just everyone going on vacations and that kind of thing, whether or not you're gonna have a full quorum when you have a board of selectmen meeting in the middle of July. And really, how much town business are we actually signing off on? Would be my other question. How necessary is it to
Well, I
have
believe it's the board.
2 board of selectmen meetings in the month of July? I'm just curious.
If the board were to choose to just have one per month, I'd say for them to strike the July 27th and the August 24th meeting, and then we could just approve it as amended. That's up to the board to decide how often they would like to meet. So I leave that to you to determine.
I go with you on one of those ones. I remember that in the past, if we strike one of the July
I mean, they
ones.
want us to meet every other week in July and every other week in August. There were years that I've sat on this board that we didn't meet at
Yep.
all. I mean, would at least, we should consider going down to 1 meeting in those months. There's not a lot of pressing town business is what I'm trying to,
We
put
have-
out there.
I
Is it
know, but our
predictable?
agendas have been ridiculous. We've
right.
been-
So we're gonna come in here on July 13th and be here till 10, 11 o'clock at night. With a humongous agenda that really, how many articles or whatnot are we gonna have to vote on? We're gonna have discussion, yes. My thought is having 2 in the months of July and August, I don't know if it's necessary. If the rest of the board chooses to say it's necessary, that's fine. I just wanted to bring it up for discussion.
Mhm. I'm with you on July. For August, if the board felt that we needed to drop that much. Then I mean, you can make one of them and as needed, and the town administrator can make the recommendation based on the available business. I mean, it's, we have, there's the 48-hour rule, so we can have it as a planned and as needed.
Mhm.
And if it's not required, because, Adam's only got three agenda items or, signatures or something like that. I think the flexibility that we're talking about, and remember that we also voted is in a nice little pay raise too. I don't want to
I
reduce the
agree.
work while we've got a lot of confidence in us. But the point that they tried to make before, I think it was just coming in to the board, was the ability to plan vacations, to be able to say, I need the flexibility to be able to, maybe the cruise isn't, doesn't go to that island. I don't know, for however people plan. Adam?
So if I understand it, the board would be looking at striking July 27th, 2022, and having August 24th, 2022 as needed.
As required. And we would leave it up to your office.
Okay.
To base it on what is the necessity.
Well, it just looks like quarterly reports on July 27th.
We could just move those.
It's never that way. We've been going up to Q and-
I know.
and Zulu on our
So if we-
agendas.
so
We're
if
running out
we-
of letters.
That's because we don't have any workshops.
So, okay, July 27th, you move them and you have every department in here on July 13th. Let's make that happen.
Or we could move them to August.
Yeah, either one. I like the flexibility for people that go on vacation.
As long as they're coming in,
Take
right?
care of your people.
So would the motion be as amended?
It would. Any thoughts?
I'll show up for a meeting even if nobody's here.
Are you good with that as required?
I think it's fine.
Oh, you asking
You're-
me
I mean,
or Adam?
Well, both.
You're
of you.
asking Adam. It's all you.
I mean.
You okay with it?
You know.
Yep.
When we.
All right, so striking July 27 and amending August 24th with, apparent as required. As required, that's up to the town administrator and
As
and the chair.
I'll speak with them.
Tim, any thoughts?
Sorry about that. I see some merit on both sides of the argument. Yeah, I think we get by with the one in July. Let's leave the 2nd August as an as needed or if required position, and we can always make adjustments between now and then.
All right, thanks, Tim. So here's where I add back hours. I think that we suffer without a really good, I don't even see retreat on here. I felt that even though we did it in a business meeting, I felt we did not have that same sense of, I'll use the word workshop, but to be able to really drill down onto the things that we want. We fill out the sheets, we have debate, but it winds up getting clouded. We're meeting, we're conducting business, but we're actually not, it's not a planning meeting.
I agree.
We're kind of commingling. So I would like to add back a retreat. However we want to do it. I don't want to do it within a business meeting. Whether we convert a business meeting to, a couple of hours in the afternoon. But I think that there's merit, and I think that the outputs of that really give Adam a better product to start building his budget. He can understand it more, and what the impetus was for adding that back, or maybe we object and we want to craft something, or one of us comes up with a really good idea and we wind up expanding upon that.
We've been ticking off the boxes, so we need to,
What's that?
we've been ticking off our
Oh, I know.
boxes, so we could add
Yeah, we got-
some
got
stuff
a lot,
that would,
yeah.
I think it'd be prudent.
When did we have that before? When was the retreat?
First week in September. Why don't we put it on August 31st if you want to add that in? Is that still, then if we don't have the meeting on the 24th, week later you have another one.
Okay. What day of the week is the
It's
31st?
it's a Wednesday. And then you still have 2 weeks before the next September meeting.
That makes good sense. It sounds good.
I like the idea that we wind up getting a couple of hours, not dealing with the housekeeping and everything else that we have going on, and we wind up actually drilling down.
Relax.
Yeah, locking the door.
We didn't record them, right? We did.
I don't
Mr.
remember.
Rice,
No, we
Yes,
don't
go ahead.
record those.
looking back at the schedule for fiscal year 2021, we had the retreat September 2nd. We had a workshop October 7th as published on those calendars.
Okay. If we have a retreat, and I would say like earlier in the day, offsite, like we've done before, senior center or wherever.
Maybe like 5 o'clock.
Does that sound better? We wind up doing like a 5 to 8 retreat.
It's just us and Holly now.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a public meeting, but the purpose of the meeting, so it's not like you're gonna have, Laurel view on
No, I know.
on the agenda, then everybody comes in and.
No, I know.
Yeah. So that would be the 31st from 5 until complete.
Mhm. I would agree with that.
Okay. I'll work with Tim on.
So you're not gonna
structuring
have an
that.
agenda for August 24th, just so you know. Throwing that.
All right, so we got 3 amendments, striking 27th, converting August 24th to as required, and a retreat workshop on August 31st. Anything else? On the motion to approve the FY 23 meeting schedule as amended, how would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie? Tim?
Who brought that? up?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I can take one of our new employees out. She's been waiting in the field.
Waiting in a field?
Oh.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
just before we get to the minutes.
Yep.
Appreciate
Check
it.
for
Thank you.
ticks.
That's Tabitha, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Steve, go ahead.
Yes, hello, everyone.
She's in
Hi.
the field.
Come
Yep.
here because
She is in a field.
She is in a field.
That's her dedication. I'd like to introduce Tabitha Bresnahan. She's our new program coordinator, part-time. She's going to be focusing on our website, which we just got our fingers on yesterday and today. So we're checking that out. And we can show you that soon, hopefully. So Tabitha's going to be focusing on that. She's also been doing lots of social media, and I will be quiet now so she can say a few words and get out of the field.
Hi,
Hi, Tabitha.
sorry, I'm at my kid's baseball game, so I do apologize.
We love the reports from the field.
My kid is beating other children up, so we're doing good today. Sorry, give me a minute. Let me walk away from them. He's 7.
Super
He's
happy to have you on the team.
He's chaos. So yeah, I'm really excited to be with you guys. I have started going through different events and putting together a list of upcoming Templeton events around the area and getting them ready to put on the website, as well as looking into running a photography contest on social media to try and kind of encourage the community to get together a little bit.
We're so excited.
And just a couple other things. I do run a photography business, so marketing is kind of my thing. And I hope to use the photography skills to take different photos of events and the area as well.
Awesome. Tabitha, do you live here in town?
I do not. I live in Gardner. I grew up in Baldwinville, though.
Okay. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're joining a great team. If you haven't seen their stuff before, which I find that very hard to believe, TCTV is pretty out there in terms of their products. But I think you'll find not only what they do, but the people that you'll be working with, you'll have a good time.
Yeah, so far I have. I've really enjoyed working with everybody so far. So
I think Tabitha will be a great addition.
Absolutely. Welcome to the team,
you.
Tabitha. Thanks
Welcome
for
aboard.
thanks for
Thank
hanging
you.
in there. Go rein your kid in, right?
Steve's got good spidey sense. Picking his team.
bye.
Tabitha, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
All right, jumping back in time, couple approval of minutes. We have no executive session minutes. We have meeting minutes from April 27th. I was there, I wasn't remote, so we just need to make that change at the top. It says I was remote.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of 4/27/22 with the amended, you were present, not remote.
Second.
I have a motion in a second. Any further discussion? Observations, omissions, clarifications.
Good.
Okay, hearing none on the motion to approve the minutes for April 27th as amended. How would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thank you very much. I know we've got a lot of business. We are now to citizen input. I'll call for any citizen input. Rich, yep, come on up.
Okay, this is more of an informational thing for the board and for everybody else. 2 grants have come available. One that I've been waiting for since October, I put in a pre-application for, and they kind of disappeared. That one has now come to light. That's the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And it's, doesn't really have a limit, but for us, it's going to be $25,000. That's what Massachusetts Regional Planning Committee has a price for. If it is more, we'll have to adjust, but I'll find that out before I send in the application. This grant has a cost share though of 90-10, which isn't too bad. Usually it's 75-25. Federal 90%, us 10%. So that means 22,500 for federal and 2,500 for us. Some of that can be absorbed in kind type expenses like payroll for those department heads that go to the meetings to help produce this plan.
Yeah.
So if there is any cash involved, it's going to be pretty low, I think.
Okay.
I won't know that until I actually get all the figures on how many hours they
Okay.
estimate. So, but the most that we would have to spend is $2,500
Okay.
from the town. And then the other one that
I would just say work with Adam. I know you've got a budget right now, and I'm not coming, I'm not coming after your budget, but I'm saying if it winds up becoming difficult, then, just do consider that Rich does have an actual budget this year.
Well, we did, Mr. Chair, if I can speak, we did talk about this, and he wanted to come to the board.
Okay.
Based on the fact that the threshold for the grant would be higher, but the board would have to vote to accept it if it were to be awarded. So
Okay.
he wanted to just bring that to the board's attention this evening.
Yeah, I don't see it as a roadblock at all, the 10% share. I just, in terms of us funding it to determine where that's gonna come from. Okay.
And then the second grant is it's a 2021 Emergency Management Performance Grant that deals specifically with emergency generators for a shelter. We've talked several years now about turning the senior center into a shelter. Our primary would still be the school because it would house more.
Just increasing the capability.
But with this here, we may be able to, if we have less people in the shelter, we could use the senior center and keep the school open if need be, instead of closing the school down. It's easier to close down the senior center than it is a school. So, but it does have its limitations, is, maybe 50 people tops in that building. But we do have the basement for animals, so that's a good thing. So the funding is capped at 50,000, which is more than what we would need. I've talked to Bob and he thinks we can get by with this for less than 20, but we'll find out what it is exactly before I send in the application.
Okay.
Usually
it's spec based, like
Right.
basic. Okay, got it.
Usually the EMPG grants have a 1-to-1 match. In other words, dollar for dollar, we have to match. In the past, what we've done is, let's say it was $5,000 for a grant. I would take things like the code red costs, it's technically toward emergency management, emergency services in town. I would use that as a match for it. So we don't spend any cash. We'll be able to, with this one here, MEMA is eating all the costs for matches. There won't be a match on this one.
Wow, that's great.
They're afraid that with the cost of these things, well, for even Templeton, we wouldn't be able to do this grant if they weren't covering the match.
Yeah.
Because we don't spend $20,000 to $30,000 on emergency management ever in any period. So there's a briefing on the 6th on this one. I'm going to attend that just to make sure I got all the info that I need on it. And the only thing I can see, there's a requirements, there's 2 of them. One of them is that we have to have a emergency shelter plan, which we do. I have to update it to include the senior center.
Okay.
So that's happening now as we're talking anyway. And the other one is the ADA. There has to be a letter, an official letter from the town saying that the senior center is ADA compliant.
Okay.
Now, Adam and I have talked about it there, and we went through the last, whatever it was, inspection that they did.
ADA report.
And there's things that need to be done, but they're not out of reach. So I think we can handle this and get this done in short time. So really, that's about it. Right now, they're looking at between August and October for the approvals. because this is a competitive grant. And
Said October.
the actual application and letter have to be in by July 19th. And the contract period is expected right now to go between November of this year to June of 23. So we'll have that many months to get everything installed.
When we talked earlier, or we talked about it last week, Bob, you already talked to Bob about it.
Bob's on vacation, but
Okay.
on Tuesday, we'll be discussing.
Moving into the winter time. I don't know if what you meant was like execution in
Well,
building.
I was actually gonna try and do this so that Bob's not involved. It's
Okay.
Complete installation.
Okay. Just
They're
the
paying for it.
considerations of snow and ice.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only thing that might be required, you might have to put
confused
that
on
down.
this.
beforehand. We'll find out.
First, we gotta get
You're
the money.
losing.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Can I ask you, Mr. Curtis, do you have time to give us an update on the purple air sensors?
We have 4 in place,
Thank you for that.
1 here, Templeton Center Fire Station, my building in Baldenville, and the highway barn, DPW.
And you can go on our
The
website.
5th one is, right now, I think we're just gonna put it up at the senior center for now, as a place to put it. And if we find a place I'd like to get one in Otter River, just to even, one at each.
It has to have
precinct.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it doesn't have,
That
we don't
feeds
have
back
Wi-Fi.
to a central database, correct? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, prior to us installing those, my Google Home display that I have in the kitchen, it told me what the temperature was out there. Yearly after we installed those things, I started getting air quality indicators in that data. So I feel like it's the air quality indicators are sending data back, and that's making more generic information available. I don't know. I'm not gonna, that's just my theory, because it happened, it coincided at the same time. But I would bet that all that data gets feedback
Have you
and
seen
then
it?
allows the air quality indicators. So
What-
if people have those kind of devices, if you have Alexa or smart displays or something like that, if you didn't see that data there before, it's there now. And I bet you it's because we participate in this.
Purpleair.com.
Yep.
And you can just click on maps and it comes up.
Okay.
You might have to zoom in on it once. to
It's
get
also
to
on
it.
the question page of our web
Mhm.
about the generator.
Oh, yeah, it's on the town
I had a
website.
question about that. What are we spending? So can we go, quick question going backwards. So what do we need to do to correct our senior center in order for you to be able to attempt to get this grant?
There's
What are
a-
we looking at financially?
You're talking probably between $9,000 and $10,000.
$9,000 and $10,000. And is that in our current budget?
It is in our current budget. 9,500 is in the current budget. Has been used.
I haven't found that.
What did you say, Mr. Curtis? Excuse me?
There's 9,500 in the current budget that hasn't been used yet.
For ADA improvements.
For
Nice.
the ADA improvements, 9,500, and we might be spending 10,000 at the senior center.
Well, I think it'll be less than 8,000, quite honestly, because Bob
Okay.
will be able to do most of this. And his people, I don't think the top tier, they put down prices
Mhm.
in that report as if somebody was coming in to do it.
Okay,
I think, I'm gonna say 100% of the stuff, I think Bob can handle it without any problem.
so our town employees will,
Yes. So I think we've got more than enough money. to
the
cover
financial
probably
piece of
with
it.
Excess.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right, that's it.
Before you go, Rich, just so
Related.
people out in TV land know, for your massive budget of $1,750, you're bringing to the town about over 20 grand potentially with these grants
Mhm.
and the other grants that you usually go after. And that's why we pay you the big bucks. Thank you.
And Don Warren. and
Thank you.
Thank you,
All the team. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you. And is there any other citizen input? I had said that I was going to read, we've got a lot of people waiting on business and otherwise. If you haven't seen Superintendent Casavant's letter, I don't know if it's on the NRSD Facebook page or website, but I would definitely, the crux of it was, this was a horrible thing that happened. Uvalde.
Relax and read it.
We have a lot. Would people like to hear it? I mean, we've got a lot of business. I would just say, I would go out there and try and look for it. What you can know in your heart is that they take our children's safety very seriously in Narragansett Regional School District. And I'm sure in all the school districts in the area, Monty Tech, wherever Templeton kids are going to school. And the level of detail, professionalism, and care that he put into that notice. I'd ask you to go out there and look for it. If you at all concerned, if you were thinking about how our school reacts to these things, he is a class act that made sure that people understood what we are doing in this community to protect our children from a training and a compassion perspective. So I would, my kudos go out to NRSD, his staff, and to Dr. Casavant for that. Please look at that. Most of the town probably has it in their inbox. You get text messages if you're part of the school. But if you don't have anybody in the school system and you're worried about what your community is doing in these crazy times where it seems like there's a school shooting every week, know that this community cares about its children. Any other citizen input? All right, hearing none. I will actually add in citizen input, Memorial Day is coming up. There is a Memorial Day ceremony Monday morning, 10 a.m. And you can expect there's some speakers down in Baldwinville, right across from the Legion at the War Memorial. I wear this all the time. Sergeant First Class Kevin DuPont, killed in action 17 June 2009. He actually died well after in a burn center in Texas. But those of you remember, Kevin DuPont grew up in Templeton. So I ask on Monday, as we always do on Memorial Day, take a moment and think of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. We've got a lot of memorials around town. We have a lot of people that will wake up early and go out of their way to make sure that we pay our respects every year, as we always do in this community on Memorial Day. So 10 o'clock, you definitely see them around town, and hope to see you out there. I know we have many from the select board and others that'll be marching out there. They've got a speaker, a couple speakers lined up, so hope to see you out there.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Tim.
just to piggyback with that, I know a lot of folks have raised the question. The American Legion is doing the tours of the various memorials around the town. They're forming up and starting their day at 7 a.m. and they will be joining the parade at 10.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. Yep, we got a lot of partners here in town. All right, we are going to jump into new business. We've already met Tabitha. We have an appointment to the Recreation Commission. I did not see on Zoom, or is Nick Smith here? Oh, hey, Nick, how are you? Great. Glad to see you. I loved your community interest form. I forget what was at the bottom. It was like, glad to see everybody, or what did it say?
Have a great
Have a
day.
great day. Thank you so much, and super qualified for this position. So we are very happy to have you volunteer to be on rec. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf
Welcome.
of the kids too, and families.
I would move to appoint Nick Smith to the Recreation Commission for the remainder of an unexpired term to end on 6/30/22.
Second.
I have a motion in a second. Any further discussion?
I just appreciate his bringing all of his experience to work with the youth in our community.
Absolutely.
Totally agree, Tim. He's got a lot of experience. That's awesome.
Okay, on
Our
the mo-
kids are lucky.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Agree.
Thank you
Absolutely.
for stepping up.
All right, on the motion to appoint Nick Smith to the Recreation Commission for the remainder of an unexpired term to end on 6/30/22. How do you vote? Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes,
Templeton tough, I see it. And I vote yes
Where
as
do we
well.
buy?
Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Where
it.
did he get that shirt?
All right, I am ready to hear about development services. I don't know
Sure,
about you.
everybody is. She's ready to get her.
Sorry we missed you last month.
I'm sorry I
Oh,
wasn't
no.
here. I apologize.
Thank you for coming in, Lori.
As long as you're okay. Yes, yes, I am. Thanks. So as director, I worked with Tim Toth from the select board and town administrator Adam, and we did purchase 1,000 test kits last quarter. Those are gone now, just so you know, as a public announcement. And the city of Gardner was kind enough to include surrounding cities and towns so that we could do that at a good cost. I continue to attend the weekly Mass DPH meetings, and they have actually now changed to almost once a month. We expended our first round of Green Communities grant, and we are this close to the rest of it coming in for the second round. We had a meeting, we set up a meeting with Linda Overring, who does planning and grant consulting. And the DPW director and I met with regard to some maintenance at the landfill. We need to repair a vent and do some swale clearing. So not a lot of work, and Bob is awesome. COVID, we continue to have, it really was kind of on the down slope last quarter. We had a day where we handed out the test kits, and Narragansett Regional School District hosted a vaccine clinic on the 7th of February. That was pretty much it. Building commissioner and administrative assistant for the building commissioner saw 42 permits that included 4 new single-family homes, many other things with it, home improvements, commercial upgrades, pellet stoves, pools, in-law apartments.
People are busy.
Oh, so busy. 29 certificates of completion were issued, 12 occupancy permits were issued. It was an estimated value of over $2 million with 11,500 in fees just in building permits. There were 32 electrical permits issued, covered a wide range of upgrades and construction. Fees collected were $3,939. We had 19 plumbing permits. Again, wide range of things that it covered. That was fees collected, $3,010. There were 19 gas permits issued and collected fees of $1,335. The Agricultural Commission with the Board of Health did draft a bylaw to cover roosters and chickens. We missed the deadline for May. It will go to the foul town meeting. Yeah, that was, That's what they're gonna call it.
that was Freudian, definitely. And just to clarify, there are still problems with the chickens and roosters, and it's a lot
Yeah,
of
they're
fun
sort of like just walking all over town
Everywhere.
right now.
everywhere. The zoning board of appeal had, they approved a variance request for 44 Shady Lane. That was to decrease 15 feet to 12.5 feet for a side offset. We are dealing with an issue on Brooks Road, which is in litigation, so I really can't talk a lot about that. And then we were seeing 569 Baldwinville Road, and that was actually carried over into the next quarter.
Okay.
Planning, we met with town council and the town administrator with regard to Laurel View. At the March 8th meeting, the members approved 3 yes, 2 no to waive the requirements to accept Laurel View as a town road, and additional work with town council and town administrator continues.
Understood.
Conservation, a lot of people are home still, and when they see trees and things like that coming down, we get a lot of complaints. For most of those complaints, there are forestry plants in place, and the owners are doing the right thing.
we have a new DEP circuit rider who's been great and doing a lot of training with myself and Jess Case. Jess has just been awesome.
Yeah.
Coming up to speed with conservation. Gardner Municipal Airport had filed an RDA. They didn't need to do any further filing because it was actually an improvement on what was already there.
Okay.
That was all pretty much normal stuff. 4 notices of intent were processed for King Philip Trail. There's 4 houses going up over there. I'm sure everybody noticed. There was a certificate of compliance issued to 693 Patriots Road, and there were multiple site walks at the junction between Lord Road, Otter River Road, and North Main Street where the flooding happens over there. So that's still, yes, still in process, although it looks pretty good right now. The Board of Health, a lot of building going on, a lot of septic systems. Probably one of the better things we did is, since Tommy Royer kind of retired on us, we arranged to host a recertification class for ServSafe certifications for our local food establishments. We were able to use a room over at the senior center. It went very, very well. Everybody was very appreciative. Board of Health voted unanimously to approve the condemnation for all trailers, buildings, mobile homes on the property on Patriots Road. And that is still in litigation. There will be an update next month.
Okay.
I already told you that. And there were many complaints over the winter months, such as persons not following COVID protocols. We're pretty much past that now.
Yep.
We had one family without heat and hot water, but Fannie Mae, who was the mortgager, took care of that and housed people until they could figure out what was going on over there.
Okay. Any questions for Lori?
Do you know how, do you have an update or just, yeah, I guess an update on how the junk and the debris with all the different department heads that are watching certain areas of town? Do we see anything improving in those areas that are being dumped upon?
So what we did, if you mean like
Do we have
somebody took a truckload and
Right.
dumped it on the side of the road? So no, what we do is if there's any information in there with names, addresses, like if there's a bag of trash with it, we go through it, we look
You
for
go through it and then try to-
and we track them down. With the latest one, it was literally a couch, a chair, a hot tub, a mattress,
On the
a
side of the
box
road,
spring. And
Across
there's
town.
not much we can do about that.
So we
But
got
what
it
we-
cleaned up though.
Yes,
It's
what we do is we get a 30-yard roll off. It goes down to the closed landfill
Okay.
and we pick it up and we use our recycling funds from cashing in metal.
Right.
So it
Just
did get picked up. Yeah.
rolling it over.
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice Chair, could I make a suggestion while we're on air that if people see that stuff, rather than post it on Facebook, they can call
Call
your
me.
office? And we do have a plan in place to eradicate it. and
I would
pay for it.
strongly suggest they call the Templeton Police Department as well,
Yeah.
because it's illegal.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is
Yeah, we
illegal.
don't want people get used to us cleaning up their, paying for their trash.
And other people have been fined. I mean, I call it dumpster diving, but we have to be really careful when we do it because we don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the update.
you're welcome.
Jeff, Tim, any questions for Lori?
I do not.
Good. Thank you, Lori.
Thank
You
you.
sticking around?
I am.
Thank you. Okay, we have a presentation from Tony Roselli, and this is concerning our FY21 audit. Tony, good evening.
How are you? Good evening.
Great to see you again. As you can see, we are in joint session with our advisory committee, so they're happy to see you too.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, there was a lot of seats around the table. So good to see everyone.
But we have we changed one of our fiscal processes. I'll lead it off with an improvement to our financial plan. But we now jointly approve budget transfer requests, so we don't have to waste time and we can get it all done at once. So that's what we've got on our meeting agenda for a little bit later. But what a great opportunity for you to give that presentation to both the advisory and the select board. So we appreciate you being with us tonight.
Excellent. That's good to hear. Kelly, you look comfortable down there on your farmer's porch. That doesn't look like Massachusetts to me.
No, not even close. It's kind of warm tonight.
But yeah, so hey, yeah, we finished up the audits, and it's been a challenging couple of years for all communities in Massachusetts. A lot of you guys didn't know if you were coming or going. The state in 21 took forever to get their budget. Didn't know how much money you were getting from the state. That didn't get done until late October, November. So everything was kind of guesswork, you know, and you guys survived. So, you know, nice job. You survived. You got your audits done on time. I still am doing a lot of audits because federal government and the state extended a lot of the deadlines, but you guys got done within the normal time frame, which was great. I'm still doing some from 21 that are not done yet, just because they kept extending. So, so good job with that. Everything kind of went well, streamlined. We got all the information we needed. So a pretty good report overall. Just wanted to start with the overview, which hopefully everyone has a management letter in front of you, unless you want me to share a screen or something. Up to you guys. I've got some of my own notes.
We have a printed copy, but we had the electronic version as well, so we'll follow along with you.
Okay, super. So your unassigned fund balance.
Tony, could I ask you real quick, what is your rough framework for the presentation? Are we going to go over that first 6-pager and then any of the highlights? Or like, did you have
pretty much the 6-pager that I sent, and then I would just add some color as I go?
Absolutely.
That's kind of what we've normally done. So, so starting with the first page, which is the, well, actually it's a couple of pages in, is the overview.
Yep.
And in the overview, we discussed some of the financial highlights, you know, some of the points that are we should really bring out, let the public know, and kind of give an update on where those things stand. For example, your unassigned fund balance, which is that's your general fund balance that's available. It includes your free cash, it includes your stabilization funds. It's just the whole thing that is available. And that's about $2.8 million. 1.1 of that is stabilization, and then the rest is regular general fund balance. So at the end of the fiscal year, that's what you ended up with in available funds that are going to get carried over into the next fiscal year. So that was about the same amount as last year. So you're at a good place where you should probably try to maintain that level. Years ago, when we first started doing the audit, those numbers had brackets around them. They were negative. So you've come a long way in terms of where you should be in that regard, which is nice to see. And it's good to see it maintained so that you're not going too high, but you're not dipping to very dangerous levels. So it's nice to see that. Second, you started investing in your OPEB a little bit, and great return. So I think, Kelly, is it Bartholomew that does the management over there, the investment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bartholomew, which does a lot of the OPEBs in the state, does your investment management for the OPEB fund, and it returned 26.9%. So that was a very nice return, in addition to what you folks put in as a contribution as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about OPEB. I've got a section devoted to that in a bit. I just wanted to highlight that. Your pension fund ratio increased from 47% to over 50%. So I'm not sure if the public is aware, you belong to the Worcester County pension system. You don't have your own pension system like many of the biggest cities and towns, bigger towns have their own. You're piled in with a bunch of smaller folks like you, so that you basically pool all your funds and you're all members of the Worcester County pension system. So you really don't have a choice on whether to expedite that or not. The Worcester County basically tells you what you have to pay them, and then it becomes a pension assessment is what it is. So you pay that into the system. Worcester County was way behind. They were in the 30 percentile for the funded liability. So they've come a long way in, say, the last 5 or 6 years. You're up over 50% at this point, which is, again, that's not the greatest in the state. The state average is about 65%, but you're definitely trending towards a much better situation than you were in 2 or 3 years ago. Like I said, the next bullet is general stabilization. That's included in the 2.8 million we've already talked about. And then finally, the town was the recipient of an ARPA grant. In addition to the CARES grant, which has already been taken care of, the town has been awarded over $2.4 million. It has to be obligated by 2024 and spent by 2026. And the good thing about being in Worcester County is you have no restrictions on this 10 million. There's an exemption that the federal government passed that you could take up to 10 million as an unrestricted balance, basically voting on whatever you choose, other than debt service, stabilization, lawsuits. So there's a couple of things that you normally wouldn't use it for, but you can basically use it for anything else. If you were in Bristol County or Norfolk County or Barnstable County, which are active counties, they're keeping a lot of the ARPA money because the award is made to the county. They can choose to send it to the towns or they can keep it. Those counties are choosing to be a little more restricted with the funds, whereas Worcester County is not an operating county. So they passed it all through to the towns. So you do get 100% of that. I don't know if you have any questions on that, because that's a pretty important, topic, and a very good sum of money that you can do a lot of good things with. You have any thoughts or anything on that, just particular item?
So Tony, I think we've done a pretty good job or Adam has done a great job of polling not only citizens, but department heads to try and figure out a path to the correct usage of this. And the administration as well. We put some in the legal portion of it as well. I think we've been moving at an adequate pace. I know that we've still got another 2 years to obligate. I think at some point we're going to wind up saying, all right, what is the path? What is the path to zero? What do we want to be 100% obligated for the benefit of the community? I think that we're moving at a good pace right now. I think if we didn't have any more expenditure plan, I'm just saying this, just spitballing right now. If we didn't have an expenditure plan by, another one by fall town meeting, then we're behind that. We needed to have an adequate schedule where we're wind up determining where those opportunities are going to be. Not just throwing it. I think I saw, might have been New Bedford, but they're throwing a million. I don't know what their award was, but they're throwing millions at like single articles rather than taking a look at holistically what the community needs. We haven't taken that approach. We know what our high dollar items are, and trying to chip away at the studies, trying to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the right place, that if we needed a large chunk of it, it's still there. But at the same time, we have an obligation plan on that, like I said, path to zero.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you guys are on the right path. One of the things I caution you not to do is go into your budget and use it to plug some budget gaps, because that just leads to a possible unstructured budget over the next couple of years. So I know some of my clients are taking that money and they're using it for schools or some sort of thank you. They're using it for education or schools. They're just getting a lot of pressure for this from their school departments or whatever to just use the money. And once you use it in a budget capacity, you've created a structural budget deficit. So so be very careful with the way that amount is used. If there was a use for the school, the regional school, you're allowed to do that, but have it be more like capital in nature or some sort of outreach, COVID outreach type of thing, or equipment or hardware. But again, just be careful with the way you do use those funds, and you do have a few years to use them.
Yep, it's been this. It's the questions of this board to whatever Adam comes to us with a packet, even if it is something that is more along those lines, we have a path to make sure that we're sustainable even beyond that obligation, if that makes sense. So if we're thinking manning, we don't want to hire just somebody, to be around for 6 months. We're looking at long-term plans, but at the same time, we're also developing sustainability plans in the execution of the ARPA dollars.
So overall, just to kind of conclude this section, if it looks like the town is financially stable, much better shape than it was in 5 years ago, when you were trying to fund the bond for the schools. We were told you were not bondable. You did not have sufficient financial data. Your records were not in a sufficient enough shape to be bondable. That's why you folks called us in to see if we could, fix that, help you fix that mess, which I was, appreciate the efforts that were there, and it was great to participate in that. But you're at a AA3 rating now, which is actually, it puts you in the AA bucket, which is a very nice place to be. Let's face it, Templeton will never be a AAA community, but to be in the AA bucket is probably, you're optimizing where you are, and this is allowing you to reduce financing costs in the future. And these financing costs are going up because of what the federal government is doing right now to try to curb inflation, is that they're pushing up costs. So your borrowing costs and all these other things are starting to go up. So it's great to be in this AA situation where you can, you're actually would have a more favorable interest rate. And then once the federal government starts to bring interest rates back, you could refinance things that you're doing now, maybe several years down the road. If you maintain this, you could refinance some of the bonds that you've done at the higher rates. So so very, very nice. It was great to get that. That's been a AA, I believe, for 2 years now. So that's a great job. And I don't see that AA going away as long as you can maintain the stability that we're seeing in the financial report.
Understood.
Okay.
That's really nice.
So from the overview, we go into informational items. And some of the stuff we kind of talked about. American Rescue Plan Act, I think we talked enough about that. That's the ARPA. Next is investment income. This is pretty important. We talked about the feds raising interest rates. Well, typically, it's a little bit of a lag, but typically the banks will follow that. That increase in the borrowing rate that the feds move up. Mortgages are now, fixed rate mortgages for 30 years are now 6%, whereas they were 3% just 2 months ago. So these your investment yields are going to start going up. It's important for you to be looking at your banks, because they're not going to call you and say, hey, you know that 0.5% or that 0.1% checking account you got? We can put that into a 2% account or a 1.5% account. They're not going to call you and volunteer that. So you should be looking at what's happening in the market in terms of what you can yield on your money. I mean, you got 2.4 million sitting in an ARPA fund. Hopefully that's yielding interest, because any interest that you earn on that ARPA fund is also unrestricted, and you can use it on whatever you want. So just different things like that, not really part of what we do as auditors, but it's more value-added service that I like to provide, some information just for you folks to help manage the town. So that's an area you should be looking at, is investment income. Any questions on that?
No, sir. But I looked
Okay.
at the table and Adam gave me a nod, yes.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, next you've got, this is just GASB. This is just for myself and Kelly to discuss. Basically, it's about leases. So she's going to try to accumulate all the leases in town, and then we have to do disclosures with it. So I won't bore the board with that, but that will be a different disclosure in the financial statements.
Tony, Cam from the advisory has a question on that.
Okay, super.
So currently, right now, the leases that we're operating with, are those out to like Narragansett Regional School District? We're leasing the building to them, we're leasing the light and water plants, the sewer plants. Are those under lease obligations now?
The actual facilities?
Yeah, are we leasing those buildings to those entities? Or do we have any leases that would be applicable to be switched from operating lease to a financial lease?
If you're leasing facilities, yes, those would be those would come under the purview of this GASB. For the most part, it's going to be picking up equipment. If you have any public works equipment that's under lease, or cruises, or different things like that. That's where you're going to pick up most of this. But if you do have facility leases where you are the lessor, yeah, we've got to do some sort of a calculation on that as well.
So currently, Kelly, maybe you'd be able to answer this. Do we lease the Narragansett Regional High School and the elementary school to the district?
The only way I can answer that is I think there is like an agreement. I don't know that it's necessarily in writing, and there's no financial impact on it. It's not like they pay us anything for that, as far as I'm aware of. Since I've been here, we've not received any, money from them for the school.
Okay, and do we?
That is typically how they work. The regional school districts usually don't get, even though it's a Templeton owned facility, they usually don't get a rental payment for that. That's how I see it working across the state. So I'd be surprised if there was any sort of a payment. In fact, I don't see it in your financials.
It's theirs.
Right. But
Mr. Wright.
I didn't know if there was a leased obligation underneath it, even for $1, or if it's just a blank, because again, it capitalized instead of the operating. But Tony, you mentioned in the management letter, and I may be jumping ahead, but the transfers from intergovernment accounts, right? The business accounts, is I think you're calling them. So Templeton Light Water and the sewer department, where they're transferring money from their entity funds to the general fund. Is this something that if we were to prescribe a fixed amount or some sort of general rule to those under a lease obligation, would that be a preferred treatment of that we would then be able to capitalize that?
What I'm talking about in those situations is more indirect costs. There's really no, right now, there's no plan. There's no indirect cost plan. Those fund, the light department, the the light, the sewer, the water, they all use services from the town. They use the accounting services, the treasury services. So there's an administrative burden on the town to operate those. What the Division of Local Services prescribes is that you do a cost rate analysis of what percentage of time is used of Kelly's time, of the treasurer's office, of the town administrator's time, and come up with a spreadsheet basically that suggests this is the amount that the water department should be transferring back to the general fund, the sewer department, the light department, and so on. And right now it's kind of being done very informally. You come up with basically a fixed amount. There's really not a lot behind what goes into the calculation. And then if they don't have the money to make the transfer, they just don't make it. So what I'd like to see more is the indirect costs, so to speak, be built into the water rate, the sewer rate. I'd like to see it built into those rates so that they can take some of that burden away from the general fund. And that's basically how it's done in most of the other towns in the state. So
invoice to those, or is it just we can do a government transfer without an invoice?
yeah, it's a journal entry once you've done the calculation, and you do it. You do something. You come up with an amount, but there's really, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, there's really nothing behind what goes into that? It's kind of like a ballpark type of thing. There's not this study that goes behind it.
There's not necessarily a study, but I do need to correct that the sewer, the light and water and the sewer, the commissioners, they want some sort of an invoice for us on anything because they are the ones that basically control their accounts. So I can never just do a journal entry from their account to our account. So I just wanted to make sure Cam understands that isn't how it's done. And these obligations we do have to come up with. We've done that with the sewer department. It has been discussed on multiple occasions for this to be done with light and water, and it has been a resounding no, that will not be done. You know, maybe going forward, we can work toward that. But as far as I've been here, it has never, that it's always been a no, that they're not doing that.
Now, let me throw out a scenario on that. If we were to invoice Templeton Light and Water, both as separate enterprise funds for what the fee for service is that we're providing on whatever it may be, that would be an obligation for them to pay that, right? And then we would record that on our books as whatever that may be, right? That indirect cost that we're prescribing down to these funds.
Correct. Correct.
Now, we obviously control the bank accounts, but we don't manage the bank account, if you will, right? Or maybe it's the other way around, right? They're in our names, they're in the government entity's name.
Yeah.
I think, Tony, you touched upon the point that previously it's kind of like if they don't have the money, they don't do anything, right? Or we don't bill them. But if we were to bake in a fixed, not really fixed, but an indirect method moving forward, where we were saying up front for the fiscal year, hey, this is what we're going to be billing you as an accumulated time, say, Kelly, 10% of your salary and so on, right? Getting all of that described up front so that these enterprise funds would have to set aside the monies in advance. And then when we bill them, that's not an excuse not to have the money. It's almost an anticipated cost for them.
Right. And we have done that with the sewer department. That's exactly how that works with the sewer department, but it does not work that with light and water. And, you know, we can send them an invoice, but they're not going to pay it. You know, it's just, they operate differently. And, you know, that's something that, you know, Adam is going to have to work with Mr. Driscoll. And, you know, like I said, I've been here now 8 years and it has not happened, and I don't anticipate that happening. So, you know, I think we should just move on to talking first about something different.
So during the audit, it was brought up as a challenge, you know, not a major finding, you know, what we can, as we go through these and we have the discussion, there's got to be a corrective action plan. And we always leave it to Adam and his financial team and, you know, oversight from both of our boards. That's something we're going to have to work on, because it is, as we see it right now, it's outside what, like Kelly just said, it's outside what our capabilities are, unless we all join hands, sing Kumbaya and go forward.
But it's not, right? Because you are actively using your resources in your government
That is
budget
correct.
to do something for an enterprise fund that is technically underneath you in a sense, right?
Yep.
And you're not receiving any compensation back for that. That is,
We
that's not, we don't have anything to do. You have quite a bit that you can do.
It
You're
changed
just not
and we're
taking
getting back to it. Yeah, I would agree with that. We do, but it is very, very top level. There's not any detail to it. There's not a process to it. So I would say a corrective action plan is to say, the money that we do get, let's voucher it correctly. Let's, whatever kind of administration that it needs, that part's gotta get corrected.
I wouldn't use the excuse that we can't do anything.
Right.
Because it's not that. That's not a good excuse. It's just, if you come up with a methodology and it makes sense, John Driscoll's, I know, a very reasonable man, right? You get this in place and it makes sense for what you're doing, and he agrees to the rate of the management fee, if you want to call it that. More than likely, given the anticipation, he'll accept it. But I wouldn't say that there's nothing you can do. And if he spits in your face over it, there's still a lot you can do about that, right? Because you would just invoice him, and if he doesn't want to pay that obligation, then
Right.
Then maybe you don't perform the services for his enterprise funds, right? And that's a game of chicken you don't want to play, but that is something you can do. Don't say you can't do anything about it.
Understood. To foster that relationship. So if we do come up with a corrective action plan that has a lot of, will you please? I'd be in favor of that. It's part of that olive branch to say, we know because Mr. Roselli and his audit team finds that data. We know it's there. We use, we say here in this town, we're gonna, use the word indirect, or we're gonna call it what we think is most appropriate, but this is where we gotta make it right.
Have Mr. Driscoll part of the plan.
Tim, before Tim, did you have something you wanted to add on that?
I did, very quick, and not to belay the discussion and being respectful of Mr. Roselli's time. The short answer to Mr. Fort's question, there is a lease in effect for the Templeton Elementary School. I do not have a copy of it at my immediate fingertips. I can't give you the amount. The middle school, high school complex is a district property though. That is not under any lease agreement.
That's my understanding.
Is there an actual payment, Tim, that comes in? Is it small, de minimis?
It was $1.
I've got to find the document.
Yeah, it's probably de minimis because I don't see any.
Yeah.
It's a signed agreement. If there's any instrument, then it's negligible. Like you said, it could be $1.
Yeah.
Noel, then John.
In reading the town's annual report, and, the light and water department is very well run. Mr. Driscoll does a very good job. I'm not questioning that.
Yep, agreed.
But I think that what should be discussed is some kind of a payment in lieu of taxes by the light department. And when you read the annual report, you see that there was a difference. They paid several $1 million for the power, and they took in $2.8 million more than what they paid out. And out of that $2.8 million over and above what was paid for power, you got to pay salaries. I get that, but there's still a slice of money left. And some years is probably good money, as other years is not. But I did ask Mr. Driscoll why there wasn't a balance sheet in the town annual town report, and there's not. There should be. And he said, well, if you go on the light and water website, you'll find the balance sheet there.
Yeah.
As a taxpayer, I think it should be in the annual report. And it really should show what is left, and then there should be a discussion as to whether there should be a payment in lieu of taxes. I mean, some years they run, they do very well, and other years they don't do well. And the swing can be anywhere from $30,000 to over $1 million. It's a big swing. So in some years, the payment in lieu of taxes would be different than other years, but I don't understand why there isn't a payment in lieu of taxes of some kind.
I think the policy makers on both on the commissions and on the town, the municipal side, well, it's all municipal, right? I think the policy makers need to foster a environment of trust, because for a while it wasn't there. And so when you're talking about the differences of payments or otherwise, it was action plan. I look at it from a policy perspective to say, what can I do so I can build that level of trust where we do have, oh, you want to see my books? Here you go. Rather than here's what I'm willing to give you this year. And I'm not gonna try and enumerate how, what did you say, 2.1, something like that. I'm not going to tell you how I got there. I'm going to pay for your field or something like that, or we're going to choose how you're going to get it.
But
it eroded. It was like that.
But as a taxpayer, I pay an electric bill and I pay a property tax bill. Okay.
Yep.
So I pay to both entities. And what I see as a taxpayer is I see a very well-run light and water department.
Absolutely.
Very modern equipment, run the way
I
it
flip
should
the
be.
switch, the light comes on.
Right.
Always.
And then on the town side, I see a fire department with half the people that it should have compared to other towns aside, or senior services that are underfunded, or blah, blah, blah. So, but as a taxpayer, how do you strike the balance? And I just don't think as a taxpayer,
We're getting there.
I agree. That's the challenge that I see is trust comes first, then you can fill it in and make the, make the auditors happy, make everybody, yeah. John, did you have anything to add to that?
I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm all set. Thank you, though.
Go ahead.
I just have a quick follow-up to Cam's point. It's a path you don't want to go down, but it's a path that you have. You are providing a service, processing their bills. As selectmen, you can go in that weekly warrant when you sign it, and you can put hold on things and not process them, and they don't go forward. And when their bills aren't getting processed and paid, you're gonna get someone's attention. And why we're doing this? Because you don't want to come to an agreement for this item, whether it's a pilot payment in for indirect costs, which is, to me, it's two different things. And that's a path you maybe don't want to go down, but it's an option you have if you come to the ledge and you can't find any agreement, and they just throw it at you and say, no, we're not doing this at all.
And for the record, we're not saying to do that. We're just
But
saying.
no, but that is.
There is options, right? You
That's,
can't just say.
we
"Well,
do
can't
have,
do
there
it."
are options.
That's not a good excuse.
Yeah, that's not a path
I didn't mean to
we
come
want
at
to
you
go
with
down.
that, Mike.
Can I
If
just
you don't
make,
wanna go,
can
go
I
to
make a
this stage.
comment on that, with Jeff as well?
Almost that thing.
You have to remember that Light and Water were doing their own bills. They were processing their own everything. And the town of Templeton started to build a trustworthy relationship. And eventually, now the town has requested pretty strongly that they turn over, and the town now take care of that. They were doing it all on their own. We asked it to come our way. So I agree with Mike that we need to be able to hold on a second. We need to still work on that relation. We still need to appreciate the fact that we get large gifts from them, like quarterly, as we do from other entities in the town. And I understand where we're going with this, and that there are things out there and there are options out there. But if we go too quick, we just don't want to go backwards. We just want to continue to go forward. We've been trying to go forward the 7 years that I've been here. If we start going, it's not going to be fun. It's my only thought, And we are doing a lot of we're doing their billing and that kind of thing because we chose as a town to say, come on, we're going to do it now. They were doing it on their own independently without us. So now they're using our offices, but it's because we chose to request that it come this way. So does that make any sense on the way I'm trying to explain it? Because they were fine. They
No,
were
that's all right.
independent.
So that was all
Basic.
under the lease discussion.
Right. I don't know how that landed there.
So
It
that's my skill is
it covers some other discussion later too, so.
And Kim did say he apologized for jumping forward because I know that it is defining later on in there as well.
So we can skip it later.
Thanks, Tony.
Good discussion. All right, so we left off at long-term obligations.
All right, so I think we talked a lot about long-term obligations, but basically I wanted to, on the OPEB, where you are, you're starting to fund, but you're still behind, your OPEB, you put in about $2,000 at great return interest, but your funded liability is still low. So what a lot of the other communities are starting to do as a policy, and this may be a good idea for you folks, is to look towards the retirement system. Your retirement system is expected to be fully funded by 2035. So you may want to adopt a policy now that says when the pension system is funded, because once it's funded, that number is going to drop a lot. That pension payment that you have to make, it's going to drop significantly. It will just become normal cost instead of normal cost plus the unfunded liability. So what you can adopt a policy that says, hey, at that time, we will be more aggressive with OPEB, and put that into a policy. Because what I'm starting to see happen right now is some towns that run their own retirement system are getting close to 100% funded. And one of them, it just happened because they had a great investment year. So it just happened. They got to 100%. It wasn't planned. It just got there. So they said, hey, we don't need to make this big payment. Why don't we put this into OPEB? And that turned into a big war over who was going to get that money, how it was going to be used. The collective bargaining units started looking at it. So there was a lot of things that caused that money to not be as easy as saying, hey, it was baked into the budget for a retirement. We're putting it into another retirement bucket, which is OPEB. So what I'm telling towns to do now is create some sort of a policy that you're going to take some of that windfall, I call it, later to fund your OPEB, and start to make that part of your planning process so that when that day does arrive, some of it's already earmarked. In other words, it's already been planned. It's already in your strategy, so that when that windfall does occur, you don't have everyone at your door saying, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this. And that's my suggestion on the long-term liabilities. Otherwise, you get the OPEB thing will never get resolved until the state decides to mandate it, like they did with pensions 30 years ago. So I don't know if you have any questions on that or not, but that's my 2 cents on OPEB and pension. Next is network security. We talk about this every year, and every time I come back here, there is more towns that are getting hit, more town employees that are falling for, here's my new payroll routing, can you send it to this bank? And it's in an email, and I'm saying, get rid of that. They got to come in person when they request changing banks. Different things like that. I'm just seeing it all over the place. So I put this reminder in all the time to just take a good look at your network security. A few years ago, we had a gentleman that I had referred you to do a security assessment. He came up with a lot of recommendations. I don't know if you folks got into those or not, or made any of those. I think you might have made a few of them.
Yep, we're in a major one right now. I get
Okay.
all the time.
Yeah, so important. It's just important. The last place you want to be is on the front page of the newspaper that some of your funds got sent to Argentina. It's not pretty, and the phones don't stop ringing, and the emails blow up, and the Facebook pages go crazy.
Agreed.
Next is just fraud. Keep looking at your cash processes. Make sure you're reconciling with the department heads. Make sure that they are turning funds over timely. Make sure that they have funds that are safeguarded before they turn them over, that they're just not out loose. Basically that starts with the treasurer's office and the policies in the treasurer's office. The treasurer does have policies. Let's just make sure that those are enforced by reminders, a couple of times a year, send out the reminders to the department heads on the importance of safeguarding cash.
Okay.
Next is just the general findings. So the first one, it's a small amount, but there's a deficit in your special road detail account, about $13,000. And it didn't look like enough came in subsequent to year end to get rid of that deficit. Usually the deficit is because you're waiting for bills, and it didn't look like that was the case. So I put this out to Kelly to try to figure out if there was a real deficit there that might need to be raised. If it's not going to be funded by receivables that are out there, then the town needs to raise that. So I think the Division of Local Services does take that deficit that you can't prove and do a free cash hit on it. They reduce your free cash for that amount. So again, it's a small amount, but it's good to get into the habit of reconciling those detailed reports with the general ledger. Next is, unless there's any questions on that, next is your payroll liabilities. Let's see, there's some deficits in some of the withholding accounts. One was due to an employee who had left town, taken off the plan, but the town continued to get charged for the person's portion of the plan. So the town was paying for an employee that was no longer there, and it created a deficit in the fund. So just if these things are being reconciled every month, these things won't happen. So, my message on the withholding accounts is just reconcile them. Make sure that your health insurance is up to date, that people that are on the plan are working for the town, that they're not off the plan. Make sure the appropriate amount of money is being sent over to pay for the plan, that the proper amounts being taken from your employees. These reconciliations should be done. That's important on the withholdings. There is another deficit for 10,000 in.
Quick question from the advisory.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Cam reports, for that finding there that we were paying an employee who was not supposed to be on payroll, right? I heard that correct. He was not supposed to be receiving a paycheck, but he was, or she.
No. This is the payroll withholding. So the town pays a portion of everyone's insurance, and the employee kicks in a piece. So this employee, he left town. He's no longer working for town. So he was obviously not paying in a piece, but the town kept getting charged and paying as if he was to the provider. So that's what created the deficit. There was never any money coming in from that employee because he was no longer working for the town. So basically he was on the rolls. It was never taken off the rolls. This wasn't a payroll check. It was the fact that the insurance company did not know that the employee had been taken off the rolls, so it kept charging you, and the town kept paying for that employee. So again, that's just something that if you're doing a reconciliation, you're going to catch stuff like this. I believe, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you got the money back. I believe it got reimbursed.
Yeah, after the fact, we were able to get that resolved with the insurance company and get the money back. And we now have I have set in place Excel spreadsheets each month for the reconciliation of all of the bills. And so I have that double check with my assistant to make sure that the payroll withholdings are happening exactly as the bills are coming in. And if there's a problem, we can get it resolved at that point.
And when did you implement that?
I had implemented it in FY21, but with the turnover of my assistants, things definitely fell through the cracks when I was doing both jobs full time. So this particular incident was my fault completely, that I didn't get that paperwork scanned and sent into the insurance company.
And Kelly, are you the one that would oversee when headcount, when you guys terminate or hire employees, or how is the notification process happen on that? Are you notified? Are you the person that all of that? Is that coming from Adam? How does that process flow?
Each department is to do an employee change form when someone leaves, and that goes then to the select board office for Adam to sign off on, and then it comes to my office for us to handle the paperwork. And then so it ultimately starts with the department head, and the department head has to send those in. That is a problem that we've had with a lot of department heads that we're working through. They're not notifying us of, something that's changed, but I think we have a really good solid process happening now. And so far this year, we haven't had a real issue of any issue on that.
Okay, thank you.
And let me jump in. So this is a presentation. If we've got questions, absolutely, but we're not going to fix everything here tonight. What we are doing is interpreting the audit report, the high points from it. We're going to take the audit report, scrutinize it, analyze it, and come up with a corrective action plan. If we wind up having corrective action plan that don't catch the systemic things, which is really to that question, Cam, to say, is there a systemic thing? This employee change form, what's the process for that? Is that something procedurally that would have been able to change? But we're not going to fix everything tonight. That's what I just want to put out there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to further add too, this was a period of time, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, but now that we have a full-time assistant out of the office, there was a period of time where Kelly's working part-time, but she was doing everything because she didn't have any staff member for that. So that's something where she was, at the end of the day, she was able to work with the insurance company, as she mentioned, to resolve the situation, but it did come up in the audit. So it's something that we just have to pay attention to.
Again, mistake or procedural flaw. if we can catch both in that, then I think that is a bonus for us.
I just wanted.
Okay. Anything else on that? All right.
So in the.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tony.
So in the next, yep. So in the next bullet point, there's an account called other liabilities, and there's a deficit for $10,000. It's been there a couple of years. I think it's a permanent deficit, probably should be raised on the tax recap. I don't know if Kelly's investigated it since I provided her with this list of things. But if your investigation shows that you can't nail down if it's from a coding error or whatnot, it looks like you got a permanent deficit there that you probably do need to raise. And then on the same line, there's 2 escrow accounts that are also in deficit that have been like that for a few years. So while you're at it with all these little deficits, you might as well clean them up and just put them on the recap and get them raised and stop having them pop up in your general ledger year to year. I think that makes a lot of sense. There's not a lot of dollars, and it just makes sense just to clean them up, if that makes sense. So
Tony, question from the advisory.
When you say deficit in other liabilities, is that a debit balance that's just over what it should be?
It's a debit balance that looks like it was either overpaid or it just got coded incorrectly. And my gut instinct tells me it was just coded incorrectly. It's been around for a few years. So I think it started back when the town's records were, kind of messy a couple of years ago. A lot of it's been cleaned up, and these are some of the residual items that I'm bringing up now. Now that a lot of the other stuff is cleaned up, it may make sense to start hitting these smaller items and getting those cleaned up. So, so hopefully you folks agree with that. And these are things that can be cleaned up through the tax recap, because I don't think you want to go back 10 years and try to figure out what a handful of these smaller deficits are.
Thanks, Tony.
Kelly, did you have any?
I just wanted to say that is the account that, as I was cleaning up everything from 2012 on, anything that I came across that I couldn't figure out at that point, I put it in that account. So most of that is old stuff that just needs to be taken care of. I've had time to look through some of them, have figured out some of them. Since it was a small amount, I've just kind of let it sit there, and when I've picked at them as I can. But we can just, do them on the recap and get that done. And since we are leaving, money on the table this year might be the year to do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's how most towns get rid of these smaller things that have been around for 10 or 15 years. Just, put them on the recap. You can't just journal them out. That's not a legal way to do it. You have to do it through the legal process, and that's through putting it on the tax recap. Or you can raise it from free cash, but that would take a town meeting vote. And for small items like this, I'd prefer to see you just do it on the tax recap. Okay. If there's no other questions on that, we've talked about indirect costs, so we can skip through that. Capital assets. When we first came, everything was in a shoebox. Now everything's kind of been identified. It's in a pretty good report now. We actually maintain it for the town. Kelly gives me all her additions during the year in an Excel spreadsheet, and I import it into some software we maintain, which does the depreciation and everything. What I did notice is that some of these assets look very old. So it may make sense now that COVID is kind of winding down and you can kind of do inventories, is maybe send these lists out to the department head and say, hey, does this exist? Does this truck from 1998 still exist? If not, you just remove it from the, remove it from the asset list. So again, don't get me wrong, the capital assets are in much better shape than they were in when we first arrived. And so there's been some strong progress in that area. So this is like kind of a final cleanup thing. Just get down and dirty with the Public Works Department, the Police Department, and get rid of anything that doesn't exist. Take it off the list, especially stuff that's 20 or 30 years old. All right. Next. Next is your ambulance write-offs. The number's getting bigger and bigger. I believe there is a formal policy now. It just needs to be enforced. I think you're at, the balance went up 32.5% in 2021, and there were no write-offs. So basically, I'm reaching out here to the chief, the ambulance, the fire chief, to take a look at this ambulance area and determine what to do with this list. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. Some of these people have probably died. A lot of them are older. Some of these, when you start chasing around insurance and all this other stuff, becomes very difficult to collect, and it just becomes older and older and older. And at some point, you got to say, hey, this is not collectible. So it's probably time to do a cleanup of the ambulance receivables.
Great.
Okay, next is the treasurer collector's office. So, okay, so this is talking about what we talked about a little earlier with the fraud area, that you do have a policy, but the treasurer should enforce it, should know where treasurer's cash is, how it's being safeguarded, how often it's being turned over. These should be constantly being reminded to department heads so that you can keep more control of cash. As the world migrates to an electronic system, a lot of this stuff's going to be online, which probably some of it is now from your departments. A lot of my towns have the building permits online now. They got the dog licenses online. They got a lot of this stuff is online. So hopefully you're migrating in that direction. But until cash is completely gone, you should have a good controls in place. Lastly, just in the treasurer's area, I'd love to see cash forecasts. They're not done. Just do a monthly cash forecast. Here's the cash on hand. Here are my needs. And the town has a fair amount of cash now, so it's not as critical as it was 4 or 5 years ago, but it's still good to have cash forecasts. And if there's no questions on that, last but not least, I believe is the payroll for an inspector. So there was an inspector that wasn't submitting their time in to get a payroll. At one point in 2020, there was 65 inspections all done at once. So the town is walking the gray area, being in violation of the fair labor standards. So we had recommended that this particular inspector and all inspectors turn in their payroll or time spent with each of the town's payrolls. So from what I understand, it's gotten better in 21, but there's still some inconsistency to it. So we'd like to see that a little more enforcement in that area. And I think that.
Question for you, Tony.
Isn't there a policy on that already? There's no policy on that?
On payroll?
Okay, yes, for the inspectors.
Well, that's a law. You have to get paid with the
Oh,
payroll.
I know. That's why I said why.
Yeah, so
we
yes,
have-
it's not really a policy, it's a law. And I think, I don't know what happened here. There was 65 of them that all got done at once. So it's probably like half the year or maybe longer. And yeah, I mean, you got to remind them that there's laws you have to follow, that the town's being put in danger by not following the laws in this area, and by the inspector not following the laws. So like I said, it's gotten better in 21, but there's still some inconsistency there. So it's tedious, and maybe he doesn't need the money or whatever, but you still got to do it. You still got to go through with it.
Yeah, we're talking on this side, Tony. It should resolve itself by our next audit cycle.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I got, unless you have some other questions.
The only other thing that I wanted to go over, it is page 8 of your federal award reports.
Okay.
I just wanted to go over the significant deficiency and any thoughts that you might have on it.
Can you read it to me?
I did drill down to the description of it. I just wondered if you had like a once over the world of, do we just got to get busy writing the policy for it?
Yeah, read me the exact comment, so I can just refresh.
Internal control over major programs, material weaknesses identified, no. Significant deficiencies identified, not considered to be material weaknesses. That had a serial number of, it was about the 14.228 small administered small cities program. It was, hold on, let me get the serial number of the deficiency. 2021-001.
And is there, if you go back to, I don't have that report in front of me. If you go back to the towards the back area, there'll be a findings area.
I think we wound up going over this the last period.
CDBG.
It's the CDBG. Okay.
Mike, if you could scroll down on the screen to that page, that might help.
All right, you got it. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a second or else everyone's going to get vertigo.
Oh, so you have the single audit up. Okay, good.
I do. Stand by.
It's going to either be probably a period of performance
It's
deficiency.
basically, it drills down to, it's about 700,000, which I believe is the community block grant. And it's basically that process by which the policy by which we're managing it. And that was a significant weakness. So again, for the larger items that you judge for significant weakness, here it is. I got it. I'll bring it up on the screen. It's not within that major 62 page. It's the one that's after on the federal awards. Stand by. I'm going to share it right now. Oh, wait. Okay, never mind. So this was the schedule of findings.
Okay, so let's go down to the schedule of findings.
This is
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so this is.
Can we just to
yeah.
adopt a policy to fix this significant item?
Yeah, we have, and I'm not sure if Paul shared it with you, Kelly. We have like a standard matrix that towns can basically use and customize to prevent this. The reason this came up as a finding is you normally don't have a single audit. A single audit is that anytime the town receives more than $750,000 from the federal government, you're required to have this extra audit called a single audit. Typically, you don't get more than $750,000 because most federal grants are educational grants, and those normally go to the school district. You happen to have a nice award here for your small cities program, which went over the 750. So we had to go in and audit this. And it looks like because of ARPA, CARES, and some other things, you're going to continue to have these single audits probably for the next couple of years, because you're probably going to spend more than the 750. So this never came up in the past because you didn't have a federal awards audit. So you didn't need it. Now we go in and we do the audit, the single audit, and we find that, yeah, your internal control policies are not documented. We do have, like I said, templates in our office that we can share with you that you can customize for your purposes so that this finding goes away. We do share those with our clients and say, hey, take this, customize it, we'll look at it, make sure it makes sense, and that'll make this finding go away. So I don't know if Paul shared that with you, Kelly, or not.
He did not. I'll email him tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, ask him to share, point to this finding and ask him to share the template with you, and we'll get to, get rid of this for next year, because you're going to have a single audit next year, I would assume, with your ARPA grant. So let's make sure that gets taken care of. It's classified as a significant deficiency because it doesn't mean the world's falling apart. It's just the federal government wants us to call this particular finding a significant deficiency.
Okay.
And
that's reportable.
yeah, it's not like you're missing cash or, you got a bunch of money you can't account for. It's more of an administrative thing that the feds say this is a significant deficiency. So,
okay. Tony, that's the only other thing that I had from the report advisory, CAM.
Two questions. One on the ambulance receipts. when we forecast our ambulance receipts for the next year, is that based off of actual collected cash that we've had? Or is that based off of receivables expected? And if it's based off receivables expected?
It's based off of what we actually received.
So the 34% of whatever, that we're expecting could be a possible write-off or is delinquent, right? That's not impacting the forecast of next year's expected cash receipts, right? You're not basing it off of that?
We base it off of what we received, and the fact is, the chief's aware of it. He came to the select board. We have a policy we're gonna enforce, and he's gonna follow. And it's just a matter of getting all these old liabilities, if you will. I think Tony even mentioned they go way back and cleaning those all up.
Okay. So any of the delinquent, when we're talking about cash, again, it's physical cash received from the insurance companies for the bills. That's what we're using to.
Correct. That's what the fire chief uses.
Okay.
And he's come before the board to ask for a little bit more time. I think he's getting his process together. I think the last time he came, we discussed it was either January or February, but he had asked for additional time prior to that. So again, symptom, we're gonna work on helping achieve.
No, I'm just making sure
Oh, yeah.
we didn't make a gap on, what we're projecting for receipts. But then also tying that in, Tony, you identified that we don't currently do a cash forecasting process. Can you describe the importance of what a cash forecast would do for the community and what you see in other communities as far as cash forecasting?
Well, yeah, what typically happens in cities and towns is you hit periods when you have a lot due all at once. At the beginning of the year, you get your pension, your insurance, you've got your school assessments. So you get a lot happening all at once, and you want to make sure that you've got this scheduled out because it allows you to invest your cash more efficiently. So if you only need, say, $6 million on October 31st, but you've got 12 million, it tells you that you can take that 6 million and invest it better because it's not readily needed at that time. So it's important to just, and it's pretty simple. Once you put it in a spreadsheet, you know what your big expenses are. You know what your payroll's fairly consistent. Your receipts, your tax receipts come in. Pretty much once a quarter, you get your big tax receipts. So it's a fairly easy spreadsheet to put together, but it will tell you, what you're never going to run out of cash because you've got sufficient reserves, but it will tell you how much you can put into a better investment vehicle and earn a little bit more money on your funds. Not as critical when interest rates were close to zero, but as interest rates start to go up, it's a good idea to have. And I just think it's a great management tool anyway, just to have a nice cash forecast at your disposal.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony.
Any other questions for Tony? Tim, are you good? Any questions from the floor?
Nope, I'm all set. It's a pretty comprehensive letter and report.
Let me make one last suggestion. That you said you're gonna, scrutinize this, look at it, come up with a plan. I would put little timelines on it, like when finding one's going to be fixed, when finding two is going to be fixed, and then maybe have like quarterly meetings to see where do we stand on it. Because to be honest, some of these have appeared on the report now 3 or 4 straight years, and I'd love to see them resolved once and for all. I don't want this meeting to end and then all of a sudden, we don't do anything, and I come in and I do the audit and there they are again. It would be nice to really just have these little group meetings that you folks can have, just to make sure these things get resolved. And then each year you're going to have new ones that kind of pop up, but it'd be nice to take the older ones off. That's just basically my last comment to you folks as a recommendation.
Well, Mr. Roselli, very much appreciate that. With that, I would move to accept the FY21 minute. I would move to accept the FY21 management letter and financial audit as presented.
Second.
Okay. Motion in a second. Any further discussion? I think just during the discussion, Adam, in that spirit, with I think that's if we can come up with that, anything I can do to help.
I see at least 3 of those falling off next audit.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, if you or anybody in that department needs any help with any financial Excel spreadsheets, cash forecasting, that's my wheelhouse. By all means, lean on me.
Thanks, Kim.
I'll be happy to whip something up for you. So that you guys can just roll forward on that.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, I'm already making it into a table, with all the different columns, time, who's responsible.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean for that, like cash forecasting.
Oh, understood.
Yeah, any of that
Yep.
stuff. Yeah, feel free to leverage me. I'm more than happy to help. After a while, I'll start charging.
We might have a budget.
We'll charge, you can charge them a pilot.
All right, we have a motion in the second to accept. Anything further? Hearing nothing else on the motion to accept the FY21 management letter and financial audit as presented. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thank you, Mr. Roselli.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was
Understood.
great.
Yep.
Thank you, Tony. Good to
well-
see you.
We'll see you next year. Good to see everyone. Thanks.
Doesn't need to be on.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is action item related to the audit engagement letter, and that is with advisory committee input. Are you leading that discussion off?
Do you want me to stay for that? Do you want me to stay for this discussion or?
Maybe you should in case they have questions.
Okay, I'll hang out for a couple of minutes.
So we have 3 people
Okay.
making those decisions.
So what you have in front of you is the audit engagement letter. I'm very satisfied with the work that Roselli and Clerk have been doing. It's certainly one of these, Tony's been doing a wonderful job, but as general practice, we would rotate, and Tony and I discussed it, and for fiscal year 2023, Paul Gargano would be the lead services partner, then it would rotate back to Tony Roselli for CPA 2024 and 2025 audits. I think they've done a good job. They know our town, and certainly this will have where Tony and then Paul would start 23, and then it'll revert back to Tony Roselli for 24 and 25. So you have two different sets of eyes on our books.
And that's recommended. And
General practice.
Is he a partner of RCA?
Correct.
Okay.
Tony, I'm not sure if you want to add anything further.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of towns, we encourage it to have some partner rotation. It was certainly important to have myself involved, given I've got all the past history and have been in the weeds on this. Now that things are kind of coming together really well, it makes sense to have Paul start to look at this. Obviously, I'm still around. I'm going to be the concurring, still looking at what's going on. So you don't lose me. And then like Adam said, I would come back after a couple of years. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I still have an open line. So anything Kelly needs or anyone needs, Adam, I'm still available by phone or whatever. Or if there's a really complicated situation, I'm there to brainstorm. So I think it's a good practice. Good for the town too.
That was my only question. Anything?
Nope. We'll do.
Advisory, select board. Tim? Anything?
No questions.
Okay, I would move to accept the engagement letter with Roselli, Clark and Associates for auditing services for fiscal years 23, 24, and 25 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to accept the engagement letter with Roselli, Clark and Associates for auditing services for fiscal years 23, 24, and 2025 as presented. How would you vote, Jeff?
No.
Terry?
yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And vote recorded accordingly, Holly. Oh, I'm sorry, is Justice taking the notes? No. Okay. All right, I think we're good, Tony. Have a great
Okay.
evening.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Yep. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
All right, still got, we are at 8:40. We still got some business to do. A couple more items with advisory. We've got 3 end-of-year transfers, action related to end-of-year transfer for veterans, end-of-year transfer for snow and ice, and end-of-year transfer for accountant. You will find those in your agenda packet. First one. You want to do these separately?
That'll be great.
Okay. Okay, the first one, transfer between accounts from account, all benefits. And that is transfer request of $7,500 to veterans other. And that is to cover veterans other account through the fiscal year. Chapter 115 estimated approximately 6,000. I'm assuming these veterans already has a balance. And that's based on the VSO's expected outlays for that month.
Mr. Chair.
Good.
So you couldn't be here this evening. All you got the notification today. So with this account, I mean, it's something we budget 82,500. We kept that pretty much the same. We probably have to look at increasing that because we have each year, it seems like we're always trying to put more into that account. This year, we'll need $7,500 to cover the veterans other benefits account.
I mean,
Fiscal year
this is has been pretty typical because, you know, the other part of the year, the other half of the year when it's cold out and Adam has to come to us and explain how he's disallowing a certain portion. We always, oh, what are you doing disallowing veterans benefits? But we understand that they're mandatory and otherwise. So this is in efforts. Swing way this way, you know, you basically look at trimming his budget and then you actually get the actual cost near the end of the year that he has to do a transfer for. So we've seen these before. I understand what you're saying. You got to make it better. I know that Sheila understands that as well when we discuss those lump sum disallows and how that affects this. But you know, here we are, and that's what she needs for June.
And we could also note to the general public that aren't aware, it's that 75% is reimbursable.
Yep.
I believe the number is 75% of that.
Yes. Excellent. Advise you, any questions?
I think Kelly has it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
And also one of the things is they've upped the funeral benefit for this year. So veterans are eligible. They receive a higher amount than they have in the past, and we have a couple pass away this year. So that also has impacted the budget, which we weren't expecting.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it, Kelly.
Can I just make a comment?
Absolutely.
I just want to say, I'm a little impressed that we're only making 3 end-of-year transfers this year. I have to like commend the group for that. That's pretty impressive. There's been years and there's been a heck of a lot more than just 3 transfers.
Right.
You're welcome. Good job.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the request to transfer the sum of $7,500 from the account other all benefits to the veterans other account as presented for the chairs of both the select board and the advisory committee to sign.
Second.
All right, motion in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to approve the request for transfer for the sum of $7,500 from the account other all benefits to the veterans other account as presented and for the chairs of both the select board and advisory committee to sign. How do you vote? Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Absolutely.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
I vote yes. Advisory?
My turn. Kim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Okay. 8:45. All right, our next, our second transfer. This is going to be a request to transfer from other all benefits in the amount of $20,081.57. And this is going to account snow and ice supplies. And this is to cover the remaining snow and ice deficit. Mr. Sozik is with us on Zoom this evening if anyone has any questions.
And also to note, $150,000 at town meeting was approved for this deficit. Kelly went through all the numbers with Bob's office, so she's also here with Bob on this transfer. So Bob, Kelly, you want to add anything further?
Says
To the chair?
Give me that money.
I'm guessing that's a no, so we can.
No, I don't see. Actually, I can't tell. Never mind. Bob's not on mute. Kelly is.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Basically, it was another winter. You can't predict winters, so what happened is we were up 10% on the amount that we treated this year due to the last couple of years and more material needed. The employee status, we had many holidays and double time events, which put an increase in it as well.
Thanks, Bob.
And the plowing events were actually lower than last year. We only plowed, I think, 6 or 7 times.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the request to transfer the sum of $20,081.57 from the account other all benefits to the snow and ice supplies account as presented for the chairs of both the select board and advisory committee to sign.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. On the motion to approve the request to transfer the sum of $20,081.57 from the account all benefits other all benefits to the snow and ice supplies account as presented and for the chairs of both the select board and advisory committee to sign. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Advisory?
You think so?
Mr. Chair, I think we actually have to motion second on these individually. I don't think we can just take a roll call vote. We two separate bodies. So if you guys want to just go to the next one, we'll just do one all at once for all 3 of them and just move the motion to approve and sign.
Procedural.
But I don't think we can just roll call vote. We have to motion.
Okay.
Because 2 separate bodies.
All right, so the select board has finished with the snow and ice. The next item is request to transfer from other all benefits, $2,500 to the accountant and the following sub accounts: employee support services and supplies, itemized as $450 for employee support, $1,900 for services, and $150 for supplies, for a total of $2,500. Purpose of the request is budget shortage for extra travel for training, increased payroll cost, and extra supplies.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the request to transfer the sum of $2,500 from the account other all benefits to the accountant employee support, as well as accountant services and accountant supplies accounts as presented for the chairs of both the select board and the advisory committee to sign.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. On the motion to approve the request to transfer the sum of $2,500 from the account other all benefits to the accountant, employee support, services and supplies accounts as presented, and for the chairs of both the select board and advisory committee to sign. How would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
No.
Tim?
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Tim?
Yes.
Thank you, and I'm a yes. Holly, please note the vote. Yep, and I'm gonna transfer.
Thank you.
So we already, we technically didn't approve 6C. So Mr. Chairman, I motion to approve agenda items 6C, 6D, 6E as written to be signed by the chair of the advisory committee and approve the transfers.
Thank you. I have a second. Thank you. Any discussion? I see none. Cam?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Mr. Chair, if you can give me like a couple seconds just so I can clean up my agenda, just so my guys. Thanks so much. Going back to F3F, set FY23 schedules for us. Again, my recommendation, again, with your input would be June, July, and August be off, meet back up in September, and we'll be meeting on the 3rd, the last Thursday of the month. June, July, and August, yes.
Second.
Any, excellent. Motion to second. I like it.
Second.
Best thing I've ever heard. Yep.
Okay, so I think it's, don't get me wrong, I think this is important, but I mean, and obviously this September is going to be really huge, and we're going to be going right into, the warrant. So on top of all the budget versus actuals that we need to review prior to doing that, plus recommendations to the select board from the management letter we just got from Roselli. So it will be a busy summer, but and going into September. So I have a motion, a second, any other discussion? See none. Cam?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And I will get with Justice to actually put a calendar together, so that will be all on a spreadsheet for everybody to see online. The only other couple things I need to do is the April minutes from April 7th of 2022 that were amended because of you, Cam, remember? That was fixed. Did you get a chance to look at those?
I did.
Excellent. Any questions?
No questions for me, Mr. Chair. I motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 7th, 2022 and April 28th, 2022 as written and to be signed by the clerk.
Second.
Excellent. Any other discussion? I see none, Cam.
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
You want to adjourn yours?
I could, yeah. I take a motion to adjourn. Have a second?
Second.
Excellent.
Yes.
You can't?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
No? And I vote yes as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Thanks for everyone coming out this evening. Good to see you
Thank
all.
you.
See you.
All right, we're getting through this. This should be a quick one. Next action item is change of manager reconsideration for Royalston Fish and Game. I think I missed the word reconsideration when I was reviewing the packet. Is reconsideration?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anyone's on. It's another one of those, like, a couple other we've had with Long Noodles and some of the other.
All right,
entities.
I understand.
Same thing. They sent the packet in. There's a few things that the ECC didn't think was completed correctly.
Okay.
They sent it back.
Just me. Is anyone on for Royalston Fish and Game? Oh, yeah, okay. Luann, are you with us? Can you hear us? All you can do is request that you go allow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can still proceed. I mean, she can basically hear what we're going through. All right, so,
She's off it now. She's off.
hi Luann, how are you? I know it's been a while. It was a long meeting. We had a lot of discussions on our audit. So we've got the application in front of us. We see that it was signed by President.
Thank you.
Jeff Collins. Did anyone have any questions? I understand Holly's description, basically making sure that the paperwork is right. We go with what we have. They send it in, then they decide they need another piece of paper. Otherwise, they're all paid up. They're good to go. So I would move to approve the reconsideration of change of manager and officers for the Royalston Fish and Game Club as presented to switch to Luann Simula. And I have a second. Terry was the second. Any discussion on Royalston Fish and Game change of manager? Okay, hearing none on the motion to approve the reconsideration of change of manager and officers for the Royalston Fish and Game Club
Wasn't it just
Incorporated.
Collins?
No, that's the president that authorizes it.
Oh, okay.
That's her
All right.
signature
Oh.
right there. Yep. As presented, how would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Luann, if you can hear us, you're all set. You can work with Holly on any paperwork that you might need. Okay, next on our agenda is action related to economic development of the former Temple Stewart site, I believe 24 Holman. I'm sorry to take this long. I had so many different things. I know I can move stuff around, but it was a tough one because I had a joint board. Good evening, gentlemen. Who is leading the discussion this evening? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yep.
I requested this be on the agenda. This is the old Temple Stewart property over there on 202 in Baldwinville. I think it's Holman Street address.
Yep.
There are 3 parcels. One's like 2.5 acres, one's a really small parcel. It's formerly owned by American Tissue, and there are a lot of back taxes paid on it, and he has not paid the town, and he probably has no intention of paying the town. I was contacted by, at least there's 2 parties I'm aware of. One was direct, the other one was indirect, about interest in this property and getting it started and making people aware out there in TV land that we are trying to, even though we don't have an EDIC that is really functioning yet, but there is interest in these properties. I believe 3 of them have sold prior tissue mill properties. And there's a bunch of them. And I believe a while back, Carter contacted the MRPC about the town taking all of them, and MRPC's response was they recommended taking the town through tax title to take all the properties except for this property, because it has a stigma of being a Superfund site and so forth. So at hand, one of the parties is here, and the amount of back taxes, I believe, is around 400. This is as of November 1, 2021. Deputy Assessor is here, so she probably has the up-to-date. But at this time, those 3 parcels was 420,275.65. That's owed to the town as back taxes. One of the interest parties, and I believe everyone got this letter, that it was addressed to the Board of Assessors requesting an abatement, and the Board of Assessors met according to this letter on May 17th, 2022, to consider the request for abatement, which is the town would waive the collection of those taxes. So the party who buys the property would not be paying those taxes.
Right.
And the Board of Assessors, excuse me, voted to deny that abatement. One of the reasons given, the current owner had never questioned the tax assessment, never approached the Board of Assessors for abatement or anything like that. And in that case, if they were to abate the taxes, the town of Templeton would lose out on that 400+ grand. I mean, because they buy the property, you give the check to the current owner, he has shown no interest in paying taxes to the town so far at all. So on that point, I agree with, I personally, I agree, and as a selectman, I agree with the position taken by the Board of Assessors to deny that debate. I don't think this town should eat 400 grand. Somebody's got to pay the piper. The taxpayers eat too much as it is. And so that's my part, and this would be the group that, one of the groups that is interested in this property, so I'll let them.
Okay, what is the total? 400?
We're about 440 right now.
440K.
And if I can just, it's not a point of the assessors wanting to abate the property. Legally, Mass General Law, they cannot abate the tax on the property. So it's not even an option of yea or nay by them. Mass General Law holds us to the guidelines of they cannot abate the tax.
Thanks, Lynn. Could we go through some quick introductions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
My name is John Flick. I'm the attorney for ACM.
Yeah, my name is Robert Lavalley. I'm a potential buyer of the property.
Yep, I think we've seen each other on
Yes.
Zoom. Yep.
Dan McLaughlin.
Okay.
Partners with Rob.
Okay.
And this is John. Yeah.
I'm John Wood, I own Adirondack Plastics.
Okay.
Recycling
Oh, yep.
company. And we're potentially looking at investing in the property also.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you very much for allowing us to speak. I have brought packets that we have provided to the assessor's office with the request for the 58.8 abatement support, which provides the business plan for what my clients are looking to do with this property. I'm basically going to I'm not going to bore you with the history. I think everybody knows the history of this property. As you all know, the owner, I'll refer to him as Mr. G. I won't try to pronounce his last name.
Yeah, we've dealt with the same thing here.
Yeah, with you on that one.
Was incarcerated for basically fraud, for a $300 million fraud scheme and a bid to save his company from bankruptcy. He was, I believe, released in around 2017, 2020. My office has actually been the legal counsel for the buyers who have been buying up the properties that he has been selling. So we're very familiar with dealing with Mr. G, and well, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
It's been an interesting experience. With this particular property at 24 Holman, yes, we all know that there's a tax amount owed to the town. There is an abatement process through Mass General Laws, Chapter 58.8, which could facilitate an abatement. That process is a partnership really between the taxpayer, but this taxpayer is just not going to be cooperative. He has made it very, very clear to us that not a single penny he will not pay a single penny towards the taxes on this property, plain and simple, no matter who comes in and buys the property. The property is currently assessed for $265,300, which is far below the amount that's owed in taxes. So from a fair market value standpoint, from a cleanup standpoint with the environmental 21E issues that have to be handled, this simply is not a viable property to sell for a sufficient amount to pay the taxes off through that sale process. So basically, from that standpoint, this property is never going to sell on the open market.
Correct.
In a way that generates a tax revenue to the town, and Mr. G is not going to voluntarily reach into his pocket to pay these taxes. So we're really left with a bit of a quandary here in how can this town get its tax revenue while turning the property back into a productive taxable property. And that's what we're trying to approach the town with, saying, let's work cooperatively together to see if we can come up with a resolution that works for both the town and turns it back into a productive taxable property, as well as a clean property and a property that's providing jobs, while at the same time addressing this tax issue,
Everybody
which
wins.
is a bit of a complicated situation. You know, we could approach the town and say, can we treat it as a short sale and say, look, require the seller to have to turn over all of the proceeds? Sure, we could do that. He's going to walk. He just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. So we've been researching and coming up with a process that we believe could work that in a partnership perspective with our client and the town, and that is using Mass General Laws, Chapter 58.8. What Mass General Laws, Chapter 58.8 does is it allows the Commissioner of Revenue
to approve an abatement of back taxes if certain conditions are met. And one of those conditions has to be that the Board of Assessors has to support the process, and the town basically has to support the process. We wouldn't be looking just for the support from the Board of Assessors, but we would be looking for the support from the entire town. Board of Selectmen, Treasurer's Office, what have you, development, what have you. We would be looking for the support from the town to move forward on this. The criteria that the Commissioner of Revenue looks at to determine whether or not a 58.8 abatement is appropriate. And I'm going to go through these in reverse order of how they list them in the DLS reports. The first criteria is basically, would the abatement provide a public benefit? If you look at the definition of what constitutes a public benefit under the DLS guidelines, a public benefit example that they give is a new owner of deteriorated property of relatively low value seeks a partial abatement of a delinquent tax in return for obligating himself to an immediate rehabilitation of the property to make it more tax productive for the municipality. There is a clear showing that the abatement is essential to the economic feasibility of the project. In this case, the granting of abatement authority would provide a public benefit. There is no question in this situation that this would be a public benefit abatement because of the rehabilitation of a derelict property, returning the property to a productive taxable use, providing jobs in the town of Templeton, and environmental cleanup. That my client is actually, they've been talking with the DEP and the EPA about assistance in dealing with those environmental cleanups. The second criteria is the abatement supported by the facts? This is a little bit more of an ambiguous criteria that the commissioner looks at. And again, not sure how they would look at all the facts on this, but that's the second. Is the abatement supported by the facts? The first criteria that we look at, what I'm listing as the third one, is probably the most problematic, and that is was the taxpayer, in this case Mr. G or American Tissue, precluded by extraordinary or mitigating factors from seeking an abatement through the usual process? Well, he was incarcerated. Does that constitute, for his own doing, his own actions, does that constitute extraordinary mitigating circumstance? I think that's a determination for the Commissioner of Revenue to make. I would suggest that may be an uphill battle. We unfortunately, with the way he's working this agreement, he's requiring us to fight this battle for him. He won't lift a finger to help. So we have to do this. So we are trying to figure out this work through this process. And I think that's going to be the most difficult process piece to get through in that whole scenario. Even were the town to say, okay, yes, we'll support you, I still think there's going to be an issue with the Commissioner of Revenue on that one issue alone. Now, all of that being said, there is also a factor that the Commissioner of Revenue will consider, and that is that if you can't satisfy those three criteria under the 58.8 analysis that the Department of Revenue and the Commissioner goes through, you may still apply for an abatement for the interest and abate the interest and not abate the underlying tax. That's something we're willing to discuss. That my client would be willing to discuss taking on the tax liability for that responsibility on the underlying tax if we could at least get the interest abated through this 58.8 process. So we're simply looking to facilitate a conversation with the town and the various stakeholders within the town to see if this is something that we could proceed with. We have a very short time frame with the buyer to get this done, June 30th of 2022.
Okay.
I suspect that we can get that extended if we are making sufficient progress.
That's from Mr. G?
Yes.
Okay.
He had counsel. His counsel conflicted out because his counsel is also town counsel for the town of Templeton. And now my understanding is that he's no longer using counsel. So he's basically going to rely on whoever buyer's counsel is to do all of the typical seller side of things. But he's communicated to us through his broker that he simply will not have anything to do with this process.
He's just pinching every corner.
He is. Now, I do know on the recent transactions that my office just closed with the sale of some of his properties, those taxes were paid. we made sure of that. But in this case, I think because of the amount of taxes that's owed, he simply put his foot down and said, absolutely not. He won't allow any of the proceeds to go towards the town.
Is 24 Holman the only one that you're looking at?
It's the three parcels.
Three parcels.
We're just referring it all to as 24 Tolman. And I think
They're not contiguous, correct?
Yes,
They are.
they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But there's other
If you-
Mr. G properties.
Yes.
To consider. Okay.
Yes.
Give that to Mike. Those are the property cards for the property.
Yep.
For the three-
Yeah, I've
okay.
got them right here.
So I do know that
21.
there was a tax taking on this
And can you
property.
see the
that was
screen? It's 21.
20.
22 and 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. I'm sorry, go ahead and continue.
No, I was just saying, I know that I've looked at the tax taking history and know that was not so much abandoned, but the town requested that the court stop all action on that matter. So really at this point, I'm not sure what the options are for the town. It's really, if you're not going to take the property by tax taking, you're not going to get the tax revenue from Mr. G. The only real option here is to try to get somebody to come in and buy the property who's going to turn this back into a productive taxing property. But unfortunately, with the immovable object on the other side, it's a very difficult process because economically that property is just not feasible to purchase for anything other than what the assessed value is at this point, given the condition of the
Understood.
property from both a physical standpoint and from an environmental standpoint.
So you had me at number one, public benefit.
Yep.
You know, from where I sit on what board I have, and as Jeff was talking about earlier, I want to take a look at the public benefit. And then Adam and crew throttled us back to say, we've got to make sure that the approach to this is legal. And like I said earlier, a win for you guys and a win for the community. Not, you know, I think at one point we were talking about adopting a bylaw change and it just was not going to be good for the town. I'm glad we're past that discussion. So I would say, I want number one, you know, the considerations, the public benefit a part of it. I'm kind of turning your list on. You know, what's important to me, and I'll let the rest of the board talk about it. But that's what's important to me is that it's a win-win for everybody. And people drive by and they see something happening. It's in terms of history of the town. Forget about Mr. G and that those properties are a sore subject to bring up of our past. And if we can fix that and move forward, that's what we want to do in all the cases where we have these problems, and we have more Mr. G problems as well. So I put it to the team, and we've got a lot of them here. Let's make, if there's a way to make this work legally, where risk isn't absorbed by 100% by either side. That's my perspective. If we both have to absorb some risk, I'm comfortable with that, but I have to make sure that my team is kind of guiding the process to say, here's what you can do legally. Here's what another board with this, you know, authority is basically telling you what to do. We can make the appropriate decisions at that time. But right now I gotta go to the team and say, how can we do this where we can make it a public benefit? We can partnership, you know, when you talk about the edict and otherwise, and say, how do we partner with these excellent industries that we want to bring in? That's my 2 cents. Tim, I know Jeff already spoke.
My only other question is, what is the seller asking for this property? What is he gonna get money wise? And then he's gonna turn around and give the town the finger.
Well, as of right now, my understanding, the property is being marketed for 450,000, but I can tell you that I can't disclose the exact amount, but it's far below that. It's if you the assessed value is 265,300. It's not quite that. I'll put it that way.
We don't have to make a decision.
No, we don't, but I
because
think
this
that
is
the
a big
conversation
one,
is
and you're
good.
getting all these.
We're not asking for a
distractions.
formal official decision. We're
Right.
asking to open up
I
the
didn't think
discussion
that,
because
To view it and bring it back to
we've
the table.
basically been told through other avenues we've tried to get through the town, we're wasting our time. And we're
Why
trying to
am I
just
not surprised
facilitate
you've
the
been told that? That's
conversation.
unfortunate.
We're just trying to start a conversation, even if it's about the interest abatement, that we can perhaps work towards some form of a cooperative resolution to work together on this.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Ms. Whittem.
I would like to disagree with the wasting the time portion of that comment. We want to see this work. There's no question about that. But what they have to overcome and the counsel that they've received
Right.
through the treasurer's office and the assessor's office isn't matching up enough at the moment.
Okay.
So we have some things to work through, and it has to work through Mass General laws.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what we're seeing is not the same. But we want.
Yeah.
We want this.
Right.
That's not.
Oh, I have it all highlighted. Mr. Chair, could I, Cheryl, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just been watching
But
you.
she's gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
I talked to legal counsel the other day. If we agree to accept anything less than taxes in full and interest in full, we are in violation of the law. And they strongly suggested the 858 will not go through, was his legal opinion, and suggested not to attempt it. If we're trying to decrease the taxes, we're going to be in violation. We've already set precedent by accepting full payment on those other 3 properties. Now you're giving preferential treatment to somebody else. So we got to watch what we're doing, because the DOR will be watching us.
I totally agree with that. And
We
what
want
I-
to work with them.
what
we
I'm,
do.
what I'm hearing and what I want to correct here is that I'm certainly not trying to put any committees in town on the defense on this situation. What I do want to say is they have gone through several other avenues and have been given the impression, whether it be truthful or not, that waste of time. And that's frustrating for me because I've seen it in the past and people have walked away. These gentlemen are here. They want to try to work with the town. I'm sure whatever committees they're going to go to, they're going to go to again. I think that we should really consider looking at this. I totally agree that precedent has been set. It doesn't mean it has to stick. There's so many avenues.
Right, but
There's so many other things to look at.
58,
Right.
doing the bylaw, anything,
Right.
if we accept less than full value right now that's owed, we are in violation of the law.
Right.
According
And
to counsel.
basically, it's according to our council.
If I could just comment on that, that the 58-8 process requires submission to the Commissioner of Revenue and the
That's
DOR.
what I'm looking at.
And if they approve it, it's approved and therefore not a violation of state law as it's now been approved pursuant to 58-8. And in fact, we are actually guided to some of this by town council. So to say there are mechanisms by which we can work this out.
Okay.
So this is again, I can't guarantee that the Commissioner of Revenue will approve this. But if we could work together towards a cooperative submission to the Commissioner of Revenue to get some even just feedback saying, if there's other aspects of the other items that you need to be able to consider this, can we do that? What else do you need? What else can we provide to move this forward? Because otherwise, the town's going to be stuck with this derelict property for years.
I agree.
And the only option you're going to
100%.
have is a tax taking or an eminent domain taking. That's it.
And you don't want to take it for tax.
Thanks. These gentlemen contacted me as far as from planning, what I thought, whatnot. And
So planning
I go back
committee
and
was
read.
involved.
what's that?
Planning committee was also
It was just a conversation. just the other day.
Informal-
That's why I told him I would-
informally
Gonna be
discussed
fine.
with
But
you.
There's a reason why, when we zoned the town in 06, that we kept that commercial industrial, because it's really our only commercial industrial property we have in this town that has rail access to it. And so if we didn't want it as a town, we would have zoned it residential and just let the thing wipe out and never leave it alone forever. But I also think that there's gotta be some type of happy medium, whether we can't get anywhere with the DOR. I mean, everybody said have to be paid in full. I don't believe in that, paid in full, because isn't a tax payment or tax agreement the same as being paid in full? A lot of people come into town, they try to pay their taxes at time, but they have a tax agreement. In other words, they're paying a little bit from last year's tax or the years before in arrears, they can still conduct their business. So I'm asking, why would that not apply to this? I'm not saying it won't maybe take them 50 years to pay it off, but it's still something in a tax agreement on the rears and still give them enough of their own capital to move forward to actually create a business and God forbid, put some jobs and some net worth back in our town.
Okay. Go ahead, Luann.
Okay, so Attorney Flick did ask me if we've looked at the A58 applications, which the board has reviewed it. And the point at the end of the day, our Board of Assessors are more than happy to work and get that land sold and everything. But at the end of the day, we can't work with a buyer. You work with the seller.
Right.
The seller had to come into our office and file for that abatement. Because Mehdi Gabazadeh, and I know the name good because I've been dealing with him for 23 years. He hasn't come in. He's never approached us. He's never talked to us. And just to highlight a couple of the things of the A to 58, because that's probably one of the last avenues you guys are kind of looking at. Typically, the board has to sign in a set that submit it into DLS Gateway. My assessors do. The letter from them already said that they're not looking to abate. Going through the guidelines, Massachusetts courts have repeatedly maintained that a timely filed abatement application is critical for abatement relief. We never got anything. Time limitation. The Commissioner of Revenue cannot approve any request to abate a paid tax or charge that was assessed prior to 3 fiscal years preceding the year of that person's request, which we never got at all. For example, if a request was received prior to 22, the Commissioner may authorize an abatement up until regarding 19 or later. Granting abatement will result in an unwanted benefit to a third party, which means it will benefit the buyer. So they can't abate, or the Commission is not going to agree to abate because a third party is going to benefit from this. I'm not saying we don't want these people in town.
How would they
Benefit, abating the tax, now nobody's gonna have to pay it. So it's a benefit to the third
Yeah,
party.
I'm sure they're not, like, oh yeah, we're
That's not, I'm not
accepting the whole thing
saying
with all the
these are-
baggage that comes with it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not a
we
benefit
really
to them.
love to have a company come in and
Yep.
take over the Temple Stewart's building. I mean, it is, it's a mind, it's terrible. And we've abated down or assessed that property. You've seen in the last 3 years, our assessing office dropped the value of that property down to nothing because we're putting taxes on it that are literally uncollectible. So I mean, moving forward, if you do buy the property, there's other avenues the Board of Selectmen can look at you guys and get into a TIF agreement. Those agreements run for 10 years with the town, and it's something you should seriously look at. And I'm sure Attorney Fleck has dealt with those too, and that would be a major benefit to you. Yeah, you might have to come up with the tax or the purchase price now to get the property, but down the line, once you buy it, and if you've gotten some kind of agreement with the town, we'd work with you. It's not that we don't want you here. It's just we're tied through Mass General laws and the Department of Revenue. There's not a lot of things, even with the A to 58, that our board can do. And that's my board reviewed this stuff. And before they made the decision and sent the Attorney Flick the letter, that's what they came up with. So it's not an option of what we want to do. It's what we're tied to doing.
Luann, I have a question.
Sure.
So the first part of what you said, the constrictions, so request for abatements, whether there's time lags or otherwise, is there an instrument between the state, the seller, or the town in a court? And I realize when I say court, I'm tagging time on for those kind of things, but is there an instrument that can relieve us of the seller's responsibility? If it's the 3 years, so he doesn't care. I think that's one thing that we can all agree. There's a certain level, there's a maximum level of apathy. There's not even a correct legal counsel. We had to serve him for a dam that he owes. And we had to, we were at least successful with it serving for that to say, we're going to charge you $10,000 a day because if your dam that's on your property floods our residents, that's a life, safety, health. So we can agree to that. So is there an instrument or is there a conversation that we can have between us, the state, say the seller. I mean, I know that the seller is not going to be a part of that, but if the state realize the predicament that we're in, what I would propose, and again, I'm not trying to tack time on, although some of the time is artificial because it's linked to Mr. G. There've been a lot of emails flying around. I think what we need to do is consolidate. We need to make sure that we've got some kind of working group or a section of people that is having these discussions, having like, how can we make this work? I don't think that there is a dead end here. There shouldn't be, or else that property is just, like you said, John, it's just going to sit there into perpetuity, and that's not good for us. It's not good for our community. And our team wants to make it happen. We just have to kind of talk through some of these processes. What was the acronym that it was basically, you were describing a TIF.
TIF.
A
The
payment
tax
plan.
incentive
I got-
program
Yep.
with new businesses coming into town. You know, they guarantee.
Forward though, I'm sorry.
It is.
It is, you know, I can see it, you know, I thought about it when we started talking about it, like, yeah, how do you spread it out? How do you try and make it so it's not a giant turtle, monkey on your back turtle? Where did, I don't know, talking about dams now.
Yeah, and you just have to hire so many people in town to work in the business. And your taxes start out next to nil, and then they go up over the course of 10 years, and at 10 years, you're matched.
That's exactly what, yeah,
You know,
like a
it
lot
depends
of
how, yeah.
in-kind discussions, not, hey, you know, it's, you know, 5 years, where's the check? Where's my $2, you know? I think I want to see those discussions, but they've got to be moved forward. Once we started, it's always been a legal process, but once we really understood that this was going to be a legal review, it had to, you know, dotted i's, cross t's. We needed to, you know, we needed to make sure that Adam was kind of controlling the amount of information. That's why I think if we had a working group that worked towards what are the possibilities, what is actually workable here, and authority. What are the authorities here? The 58.8 is the Commissioner of Revenue.
Yes.
Final authority.
Assessors are spending to the.
Say again? Okay. Cheryl, you were talking about, we cannot accept it by law, we cannot accept $1 less than 440,000.
I was told by
So-
council the other day.
What's that authority? We pull the trigger, we do that, and someone's gonna knock on our door. You just broke the law.
Yeah, DOR.
Okay, Attorney General, what?
Department of
Okay,
Revenue, yeah.
they come in with badges and,
Yeah.
okay.
But if we do nothing, the taxes are still gonna,
We can foreclose. We can always foreclose. Carter never did it because we didn't have the funds to spend to do it.
It's never been brought, since Carter, has it not been brought to this board?
It's,
I haven't seen it.
there's
I
an
don't
open
believe so.
docket number. There's an
But
open
you know,
docket on
that's,
my
we can do that tomorrow. I can.
And what's
send
the
it over.
benefit
Just
to
saying,
the
we just
town?
haven't seen it since Carter
What's
left.
the
The
benefit?
discussion
We
came
sell it
up
to
with
them.
Then we
Carter
don't sell it. You know,
Yeah,
there
we
was,
can
there
sell
was a potential
Right.
second
without the
buyer,
taxes.
at one point,
you
yeah.
know, recently.
The proceeds would go to the town instead of go to Gavazi.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it'd be a wash at the end of the day because you're right, you're gonna lose all that tax. Right.
Yeah.
I understand.
But that's another option.
Yeah, and I'd like to, I think both of us want to reduce the risk. It's got to be a win-win situation. I say that, you know, the public meeting, people are watching and going, you know, what does that really mean for a taxpayer in town? You know, however this went to vote or otherwise. I think we can get through this, but I just think really believe that we need to have some controlled discussions on how we're going to move forward with that.
What's the quickest route so we don't lose potential users for the site?
We have a cutoff.
One of the questions.
There is another potential process, and you
Go
would have
ahead,
to run
John.
this by town council. Massachusetts law does permit eminent domain takings for economic development purposes. You have to have a determination that the property is blight by an economic development working group. So I don't know if you have like a redevelopment authority here in Templeton or something that could make that determination, but there's other legal processes that go through. Yes, the property has to be assessed for damages to be paid to the property owner, but those damages can be offset by unpaid taxes.
Right.
So there is a way, and it's a best and highest use. So there is some risk in that the best and highest use could be $1 million worth of damages, in which case then the eminent domain process probably would not be a viable process for the town to take. But I've worked on eminent domain cases where the net amount of damages to the property owner is zero because of the back taxes that were owed on the property and the value of the property.
And fixing the property for use.
That
is that
really
is
doesn't
that
come into a
calculated?
factor unless it's part of like an economic development project, like an urban renewal plan or
Yeah.
a master plan. Then you can take costs of the overall project in for the town, but then that's more for a public purpose as opposed to an economic development purpose.
But let's say, Mr. G, damages it beyond repair. I know that we've used the word Superfund site. I spent a lot of time assessing where it was now because they have different reporting. Let's say there was, I don't know what you call it, 30% damage to the property from a contaminant perspective. Is that part of assessing
I would run that
damages
by
for the seller? If
counsel.
we're gonna take by eminent domain and he, assess for damages. Yeah, but look what you did to the property. Look what it's gonna take a buyer or a municipality to. Sorry.
21E remediation may be one of the factors that you can look at. I do know that if it's part of demolition of a property the cost of demolition can be offset against the damages.
I got it.
I
understand.
It's called the scope of the project rule.
But how can we raise a price on the assessment of the property? Use $1 million, for example, when he has a purchase sales agreement for 25 cents on the dollar. It's kind of hard to prove it. I lost $1 million. I was ready to sell 250 or 300. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good poker face. I mean,
Plus the taxes. What he's
I
already
would hope
paid.
that wouldn't be a part of it, what's happening after that
But
action is
that's what
done.
Mr. Flex said as far as that's eminent domain versus just going like they said about just going a tax title.
We'll close.
Yeah, foreclose.
And
But we're more prepared to do that quicker.
the status on your tax title case, perhaps Attorney Coppola represents the town of Templeton in that case. There's simply a letter on file that asks the court not to take any further action. I don't know if that particular case could be revived and moved to the decree phase. That would be a question for Attorney Coppola.
I could have turned it over Monday when I talked to him. Yep, he has everything there.
Well, because it has an active docket. So, but I know the land court is also running at a less than snail's pace on tax takings right now. But that's, yes, so those are two very viable options. And I know this is a public meeting, a public record. My clients would rather pay money to the town than to Mr. G. So.
Not that he's
We
listening.
would too.
Yeah.
Oh, but you never know. So, I've had conversations, or my office has had conversations with DLS. They have indicated that, yes, this may be a viable option on the interest only, indicating, given all the other factors. So we think it's a last resort option, but if there are ways that the town can move forward. Now, even if the town takes it by tax title or eminent domain, it still has to go through the 30B process, which means there may be it's a competitive bidding process. The town can specify, what type of business they're looking to sell
Yeah,
that for.
I'm not trying to manage our risk.
No, right.
I'm just
So-
trying
so
to
can't
be
guarantee that
aware
my
of
client
it
will be the successful
when
bidder.
we're measuring ours, right?
So.
Okay. Any other questions? I feel like we're starting to talk in a little bit of a circle. Anything else from major?
Just a quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim, please.
Yeah, in a former chapter of my life, I dealt with environmental compliance extensively. The fact we're deeming this and using the term Superfund site is raising a red flag to the top of the pole, because there are other questions on liabilities and other implications to the community. So the tax title concern, the foreclosure concern, the eminent domain concern are all warning me, do some more research, which I will do. But at this point, I'm really not in a position to even think about rendering a position on this, because I have far more questions than we have answers.
Thanks, Tim. So that's what I would propose from the town's perspective, is to come up with a working group that is working on this, not waiting for other people's meetings. I understand that we all people report to boards and otherwise, but there's got to be a way moving forward. We just can't let this property sit there and be the eyesore that it is. I feel an obligation to make sure that we're getting the right people in. I love the discussions. I love the ideas when you guys first came on Zoom and discussed it. I just want to be able to support the strong structure that we've developed in town. And I do mean that. I think we're to a good point where we have very good working committees, and we just got to get the right people. It was a little bit disparate because we started getting the different legal things, who should answer. Everyone's getting email. Let's reconsolidate. Let us get a working group together and we'll move forward, not backward.
Right, as difficult as the subject matter is and the loss to the town, doing nothing is not gonna benefit the citizens.
I agree.
Correct. Well stated, and this is a great example of the fact that we need to address the elephant in the room. I just don't think we're prepared right now to make a position statement to the elephant.
I agree with you on that, Tim.
I appreciate the work
Moving
of.
forward, who's gonna take lead
team.
on this? Who's gonna?
I tried to raise my hand, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
A couple times already.
Okay. Go ahead.
I would be more open myself, cleanest way, take it by tax title and follow the chapter 30B. Honestly, that's my only thing I'm gonna add to this.
Okay. I think I will, as the vice chair, like to move forward and try and come up with at least some proposed ideas for how we can move forward. If it's quick, if we wind up coming up with something quick, Adam, I would love that. I'm sure that John et al. Would be happy with that, but I want to make sure that we're all moving forward. If we have to acknowledge that, we're, like I said, we're talking in circles. Gentlemen, anything else tonight?
Yeah, we have a lot of time and money invested into this so far. And I call on you guys to just be a little, just timely with, just because we want to move forward with this venture. And if we could just be timely in the process. I want to work with it. We'd rather pay you folks than the seller. I mean, but at the same time, we have a lot of money and time invested in this so far. So if we can just sort of be more timely, I'd be a little timely as far as a response, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Depending on you.
All right.
We want to partner with the town and be open and transparent. We have from day one.
Yep.
So, I think we're suitable buyers for the property and we're looking to partner with you guys for the next, 2 decades. Whatever we want to be. Yeah, 100%.
They've already briefed that. All right, I think let's draw this conversation to a close this evening. I think it was productive. I think a lot of great ideas this evening, and I agree with you. I think we're going to have the right people, the right team moving forward. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for.
Thank you. Have a
Since
great
we brought
night.
these and mentioned these, I'll leave these for the record. of the
Thank
next
you.
meeting.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to our team.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Me too, please.
Go around. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming forward.
Okay. Yeah, take care. I appreciate it. Have a great night. Thank you. Okay.
Good night, Julie. Take care. Be safe.
All right. I know she's out there. The last item of, I'm sorry, it's not the last item. I was reading the line. We have action related to Mass Department of Transportation land damage agreement and right of entry for roundabout grading and sidewalk reconstruction.
Okay.
Eric is on from MassDOT. Bob is on. Adam, you're right. Okay. Still got Tim. Okay. When I first started reading through this request, what is required from the town is basically all these disclosures. And it really, Adam, or I mean, any of you, this really comes down to what is in yellow on my map. That small section of town property is basically a release of damages because they're gonna regrade it and do the sidewalk.
Right.
Am I oversimplifying it?
No, that's basically it.
Okay.
So I had to come to the board, after I sent this to town council, for approval. And Mass DOT's been waiting on this, so we need to get approval of this so they can proceed forward.
I'm sorry, you're the last on the agenda this evening. I move to approve the land damage and right of entry agreements for the roundabout at Patriots, Main and Gardner's Roads as presented, and for the town administrator to sign.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Eric, do you want to add anything to that?
It's pretty cut and dried there. We try to make minimum amount of impact to the private owners and businesses in the area. So, you know, unfortunately, we take a little bit more from the town generally in these projects if we're able to. And in this case, you know, that town park seemed to be a viable spot to take some of that property to facilitate that roundabout. As you see in the Brown area, though, that's all temporary, and the trees and so forth will the flagpole, all that stuff will remain. Okay, we won't move that, and we will put a new sidewalk. I believe there's a blacktop sidewalk there now, and we will replace that with
that cuts behind it.
And we will replace that with a concrete one. And that's pretty much it. I personally interviewed all the 10 property owners in that area, and they're all pretty receptive to it. Honestly, I've never been to that area in my life because I'm way out here, but the first time I drove through there, I almost got in an accident. So I can see why they're making that a rotary. It came up as our top 10 spot in the state for accidents. So that's one of the reasons why we're addressing it. Yeah, thank you for pulling this up. This is great. Gives you an idea. It's kind of honestly when I entered it.
That tip right off the end of it, there is I'd have to go a little bit to the right or left. There's a little like a planter. It's like a stone planter, and then there's a historical sign. Are those affected at all?
No, those will be retained. The two trees you see there will be retained. The flagpole. The only thing we'll be taking down are those signs, obviously.
Yep.
Yeah, the planter will stay. We're going to cut right in front of it. The sidewalk will be in back of that, but there will be there will be a new sidewalk that's going to go right in front of that planter, as it shows on the plan.
Yep.
And then there'll be an additional sidewalk in the back by the trees that'll like be a little cut across. If people just want, see that blacktop one there?
Yep.
Yeah, that there will be replaced with a concrete one.
Okay.
So the new sidewalk will go right where that sign is, basically cut right around in front of that planter. All right.
And how far down, if I may,
Could you leave it there? Could you leave it there for a second, sir? Straight across, you see that driveway there by the brown, that building there that's, I think it was Damon Schmidt bought that property.
Yeah.
And we'll be closing that driveway. I explained it to him and he was a little apprehensive at first, but then he got a better idea because he's going to use the further driveway down. As you look to the picture to the right, that's currently blocked off right now. they'll open that driveway up so people can entrance and exit that way. And I guess he's gonna put a drive-through. That's his plan. A drive-through cannabis store. So that's pretty interesting. So I gotta.
Okay.
Do you plan on going down past that blue barrel with the sidewalk?
That's about right where we'll be. Yes, just a little ways past that.
Okay.
But he said he's gonna retain the trees, Bob.
Yeah, the trees will be retained, and that flagpole you see.
And then there's gonna be a handicap drop down that end too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All our projects, we have to abide by the ADA handicap act.
Now, on the right side, on the Patriots Road side,
Mhm.
how far will you be going down towards Crossroads?
See that business there? Where you see the sidewalk, it's going to continue down where that truck is.
Yeah.
The truck is entering in. I believe it just goes just a little ways past that and it'll die out.
So you're gonna be meeting Crossroads, existing pavement?
Excuse me?
I think the door to the restaurant, it's pavement there. So you're gonna be going up to the brick, or you're gonna be matching what they have?
It pretty much match what is there now.
Okay.
Because there's parts that's concrete and parts that's blacktop. We're gonna make it all concrete.
It's Tom O'Brien, right?
Yes, that was Tom O'Brien.
Yep.
He was very receptive.
Any other questions for Eric? And like you said, Adam, you said, you talked to town council, this is the vote that you need. Okay. There are no further questions on the motion to approve the land damage and right of entry agreements for the roundabout at Patriots, Main and Gardner Roads as presented, and for the town administrator to sign. How would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Great. Eric, thanks for hanging with us.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Oh, very interesting listening to the reactions.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, sometimes it can be entertaining. Sometimes it'll put you to sleep. So I'm glad you were entertained.
Oh, no, I was, especially with that abatement problem you have working on. That's I was an assessor for years. I was an assessor for years in town, and we came across similar situations. You know, it's nice to try to work with the new it seems like you gotta have some people that really have an interest in that property, and
Yeah.
hopefully you guys can move forward together on that.
I agree.
You know, it's only a benefit to the town that you know, get something started.
I agree. Eric, thanks for joining us this evening.
Absolutely. And if you have any additional questions, feel free. I left my card with there. You can email me or call me at any time. I'll be more pleased to help you out.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a good night, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good time.
Okay, we are up to, let's see, we got 9:48. If someone could watch that 10 o'clock hour for us. Action item, we're up to M, action related to accept the donation of a wheelchair for the senior center. In your packet, you'll see there is a very nice motorized wheelchair from Mr. John Whipple.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the gift of a wheelchair for the Senior Community Center from Mr. John Whipple as presented. It does look like a Cadillac, doesn't it?
I have a motion. And
Second.
I heard Tim second it. Any further discussion on this high-tech Buck Rogers wheelchair?
It's called an Air Hawk. That looks like it could go fast.
Have to tell the police department. In case
Yeah.
There might be some speeding tickets down at the
He's,
senior
I
center.
believe he's the son of the old, I believe that's who he is, the former police chief way back when.
Oh, no kidding,
Used-
okay.
Used to drive a station wagon, used to be at the police station above the, next to Payne's Garage in Wallowell. Used laundromat downstairs, police station upstairs.
yeah.
One cop town, John Whipple. Take me
Oh,
to
that's
jail, don't
awesome.
take me home to dad, please.
Is
Correct.
John Brooks has a station wagon.
Yeah, but no, the police chief's name was John Whipple.
John
I'm
Whipple.
pretty sure this is his son.
Now we're talking about station wagons. I'm sorry, Tim, were you saying something? Or was that Bob?
Nope, I was saying Jeff is absolutely correct. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, on the motion to accept the gift of the wheelchair for the senior center from John Whipple as presented, how would you vote? Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes,
Tim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thank you, Mr. Whipple.
yeah, thank you. That's a beauty.
All right, we're looking at a spreadsheet, action related to a bituminous concrete contract award. Say that a couple of times fast.
Right. BCC,
Victuals.
bituminous.
So we had to go out to bid with our contract coming up that would be expiring. This is, we got pre-qualified through Mass DOT, roughly a $1.6 million estimate over a 3-year period. The estimate, when the bids went out for what the work would be, estimate for each year. And Mass Broken Stone was our apparent lowest bidder. I recommend them to be chosen for the contract based on the procurement process being followed.
Thank you, Adam.
And it will put
Interior.
Bob at ease.
And Terry was at her first one with this.
And Bob can sleep well now.
This is a materials contract, correct?
This
Yes,
is for
bituminous.
all road work, materials.
And service.
Yep,
Okay,
adjusting manholes, all that.
okay.
And they know the lay of the land. Bob's been working with them.
It was
So he
close, though.
doesn't
It
have
was a
to-
close, it was a close.
It
one.
was close, but he doesn't have to break anybody else into our town. They're a good fit.
Good. I would move to award the contract for bituminous concrete to the apparent lowest bidder, Mass Broken Stone, and for the town administrator to sign the contract.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions on this contract award? Hearing none on the motion to award the contract for bituminous concrete to the apparent lowest bidder, Mass Broken Stone, and for the town administrator to sign the contract, how would you vote? Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. And last item of new business is item Oscar, action related to the Chapter 90 plan. And we've got Mr. Sozik with us and his expenditure plan and supporting documentation in your packet. Basically finish out your packet. Good evening, Bob. How are you?
Good evening, crew. Doing good. I'm so happy I was the last one. If you're looking at the expenditure plan, if you look at the top, balance unspent, that's will be carried over from last year. And then a new $23 amount is put in there for what we're gonna be getting come July. And then this year I added in the RAP money that we'll be getting. And the ARPA that was approved to help us in some road work. So that leaves us with a total of $22,900. I rounded it off. There are some cents in there, but I just made it simple, easy to round it off. So with that being broken down, you got South Road. We're gonna have drive, that's one of the roads we'll be doing. The drainage work we'll be doing on that road as well. But the driveway adjustments, I added 8,000 in to adjust the driveways when all is said and done. The drainage below, as you see, is 1,240 feet. That's including the piping, 4 manholes, and running pipe out to the outlet. pretty much that'll be in the area where I left off. I believe it's 226 South Road.
It's about where Rosengren is.
So then,
He was very interested in when he was finishing. Okay.
so as you move down, you'll see there's zeros on the rest, excuse me, the rest of the front page. And we go over to the second page. Done reclamation. South Road is gonna be 13,400 feet. There's gonna be full reclamation. There's gonna be some milling. There will be a base coat and a top coat. And this is broken up, you'll see on the last page, in 3 areas. Because I'm gonna use the ARPA money fully towards the base coat and the top coat. And reclamation due to federal money, and already gotten 3 quotes. And I'll use chapter 90 money to finish the project as well as the drainage. And South Road comes out to $625,560. Material is going up. We if we get this done sooner than later, we'll probably be okay. I do have some wiggle room just in case. Worst case scenario, I'd have to cut back on another road. I won't cut back on this road because I want it complete. And within that money, I have a mill and overlay on Hamlet Mill, excluding the bridge. And that's 920 feet for 104,325. And then I'll be doing Brooks Road from Lord Road in towards the new houses, about 1,740 feet. And that's 106,275. That'll bring us into the newer pavement on that road. Emergency fund, we'll have 24,325. And that's where I would, if the liquid oil goes up and things start to escalate, that's where I would pull that money from. Excuse me. And then you see this year I added police details.
Okay.
This is for all the roads. Totaling at $28,815. Worst case scenario, if I need to penny pinch, I can close off the last 2 roads without any details. But it does help trying to get the residents through and guiding them in the right direction. And that brings us to the total of 922,900.
Okay. So Bob, your management reserve is your emergency, and that's about 25K?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the only question that I had.
And if you look on the next page, it's just broken down in percentages of where the work and assignments are going. Gives you an idea. And the last page is from Mass Broke on what they would be doing for the work to reclaim the milling, the adjustments on catch basins and manholes. I added that in this year as well.
Bob, if you could stand by for 1 second, I would make a motion that the board be allowed to extend its business beyond 10 o'clock PM.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to extend the select board's work past 10 PM. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. All right, Bob, we're back. I did not have any questions. My only concern was your management reserve. I know that we've been getting, whether there's been an anticipation of your Chapter 90 plan, based on priority, based on condition, based on how you're mixing things together. You're orchestrating all of these different things to make the maximum effect for our road plan. I know that we get plenty of emails on the state of roads, and we just got to continue to address those concerns, whether it be providing information or if we wind up having additional resources, or you wind up using your emergency, if you wind up realizing that you're coming in under on budget and you're able to redirect some of those emergency reserves to fix some other projects that have the most volume or complaint or otherwise, I just ask you to watch for that.
Yeah, I mean, you take like, for instance, Dudley Road or Berry Road.
Berry, yeah, I was thinking of Berry Road.
We tried to go out to, for a grant a couple of years ago. And then back then it was just a little over $1 million. And it's probably gonna be about $1.2 million too, so that's gonna be some drainage work. There's gonna be a lot of curbing. So it's just not a mill and pave. It's, may even have to put it on a TIPS program and wait another 12, 15 years like Royston Road. Unless we get other funding. But a couple of years ago, that was $1 million job.
Right.
So 350,000 ain't gonna get you far.
Understood. Thank you. Terry, Jeff,
Mr.
Tim? I don't think we did. I would move to approve the Chapter 90 plan as presented by Mr. Sozik.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions for Bob or other considerations?
Just that he's going to tackle a road that's had a lot of discussion, a lot of complaints, and is in bad shape, especially when you get up where it splits Farnsworth and South Road goes this way, and it's a road that this section of town, this area of town, so it's in Templeton Center, it's probably the worst road right now. Berry Road has some bad spots. It has some good spots. I drove it today again. You ain't doing 60 down that thing, but it's South Road is it's in worse condition, and it's the pavement management plan that we have. It's listed in there that Bob's doing a pretty good job of following it. And it's my memory, that's the first time that we have had a plan in writing. We've had the highway soup give the selectmen a list of roads. Hey, I'm going to work on these this year, and then somebody would complain or something would happen, and that would change. But this is the first time that we have had a road plan and actually following it. It's color coded. You can find it on the website. Its top two colors is red and like a tan color, and red is the worst and tan is the next. And if you look at Berry Road, there's a section that's red, and then there's the sections that are in the, I call it tannish color, whatever color it may be.
Amber, yeah.
But so there are bad sections of Berry Road, and then there are some that are, not as good. Everybody wants their road to be perfect. And as soon as they get a nice smooth road, they'll be complaining that people are speeding. But Bob's he's doing a good job going down the list. He's kind of bounced around, and some of the roads, they don't have any steel in it. It's no drainage, nothing to worry about. It's just grind it, pave it, reclaim it and pave it. And then, he doesn't have a lot of the stuff that he has to do on this road. He talked about Berry Road, $1 million. We don't have $1 million laying around, and nor do other communities. And Route 2A, the state, they got all kinds of money. And look at the condition of Route 2A out here. I mean, the roads are in this state are bad all over the place. So Bob is actually trying to follow the plan and work with a little bit of money that he gets his hands on. And he's stretching them. So, and again, he's tackling a road that a lot of people have been complaining about for a long time, so.
Once it's done, we can use our new police speed detector sign out there.
If I may add to that, that South Road, up by Farnsworth and French, that big intersection, that's not including that intersection. That's gonna be a whole separate project, because that needs to be realigned, and we can almost put a roundabout up there too, with the size of it.
Yeah, it's a
So
weird.
that'll be it,
MRPC.
but that'll be a separate project.
It's starting to look like a city.
Oh, no, no.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to approve the chapter 90 plan as presented by Mr. Sozik, how would you vote? Jeff,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thanks, Bob, for hanging with us. Hope you were entertained.
Absolutely. I couldn't be thinking of doing anything else.
That's why we pay you the big dollars, Bob.
All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
you
Thank you.
too. Sleep well.
We are to the end of new business. I swear I thought on old business, I mean, obviously I've got the sheet right here. I thought did we have the bus shelter,
We have to.
or we pushed
We
that?
have to follow up on a couple of things. We'll get in the next
Okay.
agenda.
Okay. Sounds good. So that brings us to board member and administrator comments.
I have nothing tonight.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Terry,
Nothing, thank you.
Tim,
I appreciate your taking over chair for the meeting. I do apologize. And if I could briefly share, I know the question was raised about the address, if anybody's interested in sending cards to the Uvalde Police Department, I will put that up for you.
Great.
thanks, Tim. I think the only comment that I would have, I'd like to thank the supporters in the community that felt necessary to bring me back. I'm glad that I'm here. I really enjoy our team. I think the work that we're doing is 100% for the town. And if some people wrote my name in on the form and said that I was doing well and I could be a part of a team to make success, then I'm for it. And I'll continue to.
Thanks for coming back.
Of course.
And thanks for those who came
He
out
was
to
an
vote.
undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
With that.
Does he still get to
Hear
keep
this,
all his awards and stuff?
Next meeting, June 8th,
Adam, that's
9th. Oh, I'm sorry, Adam. Maybe the blue is camo to me
Yeah,
tonight. You got really upset at me earlier. I'm gonna get to everybody. I'm not that kind of person. What do you got, Adam?
I met with Dr. Casaban today and our police chief. Want the board to know we're gonna be putting in for an SRO grant. Should we be competitive and get that would come to the select board for our work with our school district.
Yep.
Just want to give the board an update. There was enough time put on the agenda, but if we do get the award, it will come in front of the board for acceptance.
Great. Thanks. Good to go. TCTV, we're good. Ready to go to bed?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Entertain a motion to Terry and Mike.
Yep, thank you.
For your ceremonial swearing in, even though you already got sworn in.
Do I have to
before.
give back the things that Ann
I know,
and
that's what I
Susanna
was just
gave me?
saying.
It is- it is in the email, yes, I think you're good.
Well, I told Tim that, because he said, I've got your keyboard and your certificate. And I said, well, a certificate is kind of, overcome by events, OBE, but I said, that keyboard, I'm just gonna donate it to the town. It's the right tool for the right team, so. Maybe, oh, we're gonna have to put it on the next meeting. for
Yeah, is it
accept a
under
gift.
$50?
It's under $50.
Yeah.
And I did during that conversation tell him he needs to write a letter and present it.
No problem. I'm donating a keyboard. That's cool. Next meeting, June 9th.
June 9th, right, Holly?
That was the 8th.
It was
Oh,
the
you
8th.
were right.
And June 8th, 18:30, 6:30, and that's all we got. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion in a second.
Aye.
On the motion to adjourn, how do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Folks, we are adjourned at